Oy, yes. What's happening, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. We've got a UFC card coming up this Saturday, so you know what that means. It's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We are going to talk about all 12 fights on this UFC 297 pay-per-view card that's coming up this Saturday. Canada, stand up. We got Canada representing on this card, up and down this card, and we know the last couple of times that the UFC has went to Canada, the Canadians have showed out. So we're going to have to keep a real close eye on these fights, who the Canadian fighter is, and know that the Canadian fighters are doing really, really well in Canada right now. So it's going to be a great card from top to bottom. Even the lower level fights on this card are really fascinating and fun stylistic matchups. As far as finding angles from a betting perspective to look at this week, I just find it so much more fertile. It really is, because last week there were just too many fat asses at the buffet. You know, I mean, those lines were out like a month ahead of time. The time props came out like two and a half weeks before the fight started. So it was a situation where everything got picked over. You know, we got left with the dregs. We kind of got left with, hey, let's be contrarian this week. Let's try to find some, fat money lines that we can exploit, because everything's going too far in one direction. This week, there's a lot of really close matchups here. A lot of favorites that are not minus 200 or a higher implied probability of that. So we've got two fighters with paths to victory. We've got much fatter props when we've got fights that are closer to 50-50. So I'm excited to break it down with you guys today. We got only the second UFC card of the year. So we're just getting started. We're going to have a week off next week, but don't fret. After that, I think it's at least a 12-week stretch, which is coming up after this week off. So we're going to be busy, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be busy stacking cash tickets like flapjacks all of 2024 as we get into this UFC season. So I'm excited to break it down with you guys, the chat here tonight, and we're going to go into some statistics. But let's first talk real quick about last week. Let me bring up my week last week. Started off on an L. It was a week where I only got to 3.6 units of bets. Like I said, I found some stuff that I thought was okay. You know, I took some underdog shots, took some big plus money shots. And the one major thing that needed to work out that didn't was the Taylor Lapilus plus 3.5 points handicap. I parlayed that with the Waldo Cortez Acosta money line. That cost me a unit. Taylor outlanded Farid Basharat, but Basharat was getting takedowns in all three rounds, racked up a good amount of control time against somebody like Lapilus, who does have good takedown defense, who does have a good get-up game. But, while Lapilus was stopping the first and the second takedown of each round, Basharat was going to the third, the fourth, the fifth. He really chained them together. He was relentless with the wrestling. And even though I think that Lapilus did more damage in the fight, Basharat got enough control time in each of the three rounds in order to get a 30-27 decision. So that was the difference between a winning week and a losing week for me. But my only money line bet was 3/4 of a unit on the Felipe Bunis money line at plus 220. He won the first round of that fight, was feeling pretty good. Also had a untracked prop bet, which I gave out on Twitter, which was Felipe Bunis over 0.5 takedowns, which was at close to even money. That was a fat prop. I made a couple of units on that untracked, but he got smoked in the second. And Josh Van is an absolute stud, and that guy gets so much better as the fight goes on. His pressure, his pace, his volume really breaks dudes, and it was a great performance. So I lost the money on the Felipe Bunis money line. I took a quarter unit shot on Farid Basharat to win by split decision. He won by 30-27 unanimous decision, so that did not hit. I had a quarter unit bet on Felipe Bunis to win by submission, and Josh actually put himself in a couple of compromising positions on the ground, but Felipe wasn't able to take advantage of it. That was a quarter unit loss. My home run swing of the week was a Weston Wilson first round submission bet for 1/10 of a unit. That did not hit. And then I had Preston Parsons to win by submission for a quarter unit at plus 380. We were very, very close on two different occasions on that one. It just didn't cash. The winning bet was a parlay. It was a two-leg parlay. It was the Basharat Lapalus over 2.5 rounds, parlayed with the McGee Bolaños under 2.5 rounds. That was a 1.06 unit win, down 1.54 units on only 3.6 units of bets. So took a bunch of small shots. The Parsons one almost worked out. If Lapalus could have just stayed standing for one of those 3 rounds, I think that bet would have cashed, and we could have had a week where we were up a couple of units instead of down 1.5. But one unit into a year, or one event into a year that's going to have at least probably 43 or 44 cards on it. Let's start stacking them high, ladies and gentlemen. What is going on with you guys in the chat? Let's see who's hanging out with us here live right now. We got my guy Eli Kiwi Brew all the way from New Zealand checking in, letting us know, Churall, what is happening, dude? Good to see you hanging out here. We got my guy Gerald Gardner in the room saying, "Oi, yes, it's almost time to shave ass, uncle. I need to feed my family this week. I had to unfreeze stale bread, churn my own butter this past week. Thanks, Cop, for being a fat ass." Yeah, thank you, Cop. I'm still undefeated on the ass shaving of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Man, that's very exciting news. The less exciting news is that I'm 0 wins, 0 losses, and 1 no contest, because Cop couldn't even get to 126 this time, and the fight was called off. So, yeah, we're going to have to find an ass shaving of the week that actually gets to the fight and then wins said fight in violent fashion, and I got one for you guys this week. My guy Bob Spikerman saying, "Yo, what's up, Weezy, the big dog? What's happening, Bob? Good to see you hanging out in here, brother." We got TH in the room saying, "Hey, Unc, who's your favorite dog this week?" You're gonna find out who my favorite dog is after we break down all these fights, and I give you the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week, my friend. So we're gonna get to that, but we're not until we break down all these fights, and then you're gonna think to yourself, all right, there are some dogs with some paths to victory. Who's Weezy gonna choose? You're gonna find out later, my man. We got my guy Michael Martinez in the room saying, "Oi!" We got Ryan Suck in the room saying, "Weezy, need the ass shaving." Yeah, we're 0-1. 0-1, baby. Still undefeated, but we still don't have a win to our credit, unfortunately. So it is what it is. It's going to start this week. We're gonna stack some units, and we're going to stack an ass shaving of the week and get you a Bootsy Collins Memorial dog pick of the week that cashes as well. We've got Six-Eyed Worldwide saying, "Oi, oi, oi." We got my guy MMA Line Mover in the house saying, "Oi." We got Ryan Suck saying, "Just the tip, baby. Love falling asleep to Weezy's voice and dreaming about stacking them like flapjacks. Let's go, man." We got Michael Martinez saying, "Nolan buried me bad, brother. Got his ass shaved clean." Yeah, I missed the value on the under 1.5 rounds there. It kind of got really steamed and unbettable, and I didn't pull the trigger early in the week. I regret that. And I regret that I didn't try to take a shot on Moda by knockout, or Moda by first round knockout, because he's clearly got a lot of power. And we talked about it on Just the Tip last week. This guy Nolan was fairly untested, and he's not defensively responsible. So a guy that hits as hard as Moda really had a chance. He was live there to land something big, but obviously Nolan was as well, because this guy Nolan has got a ton of power. He's massive for the weight class, and Moda has been knocked out in 80% of his professional losses. So, yeah, violence was the way to play that fight. Should have parlayed it up big, or should have just massive straight bet it when that under 1.5 came out at like minus 150-ish or something like that, minus 180. But then it got steamed all the way to like almost minus 300, I think, by the end of the week. We got my guy Swinger is in the house saying, "Champagne Weezy in the house. What's up, dude? Good to see you hanging out in here with us." We got Silky B saying, "Yes, I blessed. Let's go, I, baby. Let's go, baby." We got Teratea Paku saying, "Oi, Weezy went 9-2 for the first card this year. I max bet Jim Miller by sub and sprinkled round 3 sub. You made some money, my man. Good to see you doing that, Taylor. Let's make it 2 winning events in a row for you in 2024, my man. We got Radislav Kolev in the room saying Happy New Year. Let's win. Let's get it, my man. We got JP Taylor saying, Oi, Weezy, let's stack some flapjacks. Yes. We got Taylor saying my dog pick of the week is Woodson. Already put a pre-weigh-in bet on the money line. There you go, my man. Sean Woodson is younger, and he has got like a 9-inch reach advantage over Charles Jourdain. We got my guy Jazz Johal in the room saying, "Oh yes, should Yohan Lainesse adopt Amanda Nunez's nickname? You want him to go from the White Lion to the Lioness." I like it, dude. Yohan the Lainesse. I think that's pretty good, dude. I kind of like it. I don't know why I like it, but I definitely like it, Jazz. Good to see you hanging out in here, brother. We got Kiwi Bruce and Tab Touch gave us plus 100 money line from Nolan. Oh, man. You know, it's always those damn, like the profit boosts. Remember when they were giving away free money and they gave you plus 100 on Israel Adesanya's money line against Sean Strickland, and Strickland goes out there and just dominates them for 4 out of the 5 rounds. I thought he won all 5 rounds. Just a phenomenal performance. I mean, just wild stuff. And then he seemed to have this nose for like the bets that are juiced. They give you a big discount on it, and then it winds up going tits up. Unbelievable, man. But you guys, we got a lot of work to do. We have got 12 fights to break down here. Let's get the stats up on the screen. Let's share it with you guys. Please consider joining the Patreon if you want to support my work. The address is scrolling on the screen down below. That is where you get access to these phenomenal stats for every single fight. Not only do you get the matchup stats here for tail of the tape, pro experience, UFC experience, finish stats and wins and losses, record to the decision, significant striking, offense and defense, offensive distance striking stats, defensive strength distance striking stats, the clinch and ground striking stats, the grappling stats on offense and defense, the control time stats, the strength of schedule stats, the last 5 fights. If you're the kind of do-it-yourself or the gambler who really likes to have all the information at your fingertips, my Patreon has got access to really phenomenal products for very, very reasonable prices that'll help you make better decisions because you have all the information at your fingertips. We've even got the prop template here where we've got the analytics for each round. You would know that when middleweights fight in 5-round fights, that 40 of 67 middleweight fights that were scheduled for 5 rounds finish inside the distance. That's 59.7%. You can compare that number to the implied probability of the betting line. You can compare it to the combined performance of the 2 fighters. There is really a lot of value in all the products on my Patreon. And if you like the content here, and if you want to support my work, this really helps me out. So please consider joining the Patreon. But if you don't want to do that, hit the thumbs up, man. Hit that subscribe button here so you don't miss out on any of the great content that comes up on this channel. And leave me a comment down below. That also helps me out, you guys. So let's get to work, everybody. Let's start talking about the very first fight of the night, which is going to be Malcolm X Gordon going up against Jimmy the Brick Flick. What do we got for odds on this one? Malcolm Gordon was about minus 150 when I was on the Die Hard MMA podcast yesterday with my man Clint. He was probably about minus 145 when I did Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio with my man DFS by the numbers. Now all of a sudden he's like minus 203. Let's see where he is like right now. Is that number still there? Minus 200. Okay, either way, big favorite right now, Malcolm Gordon. Jimmy Flick, plus 170 on the money line. We got the under 1.5 rounds at minus 125 because we don't have a fight goes to decision prop yet for this fight. Bet Online doesn't have that prop available for the Jourdain Woodson fight, the Flick Gordon fight, or the or is those the only 2? I think the Curtis fight. No, they've got it on the Curtis fight now. Okay, anyway, that's where we're at on the money line here. And let's first start talking about Malcolm X Gordon and the advantages that he has in this fight. Malcolm Gordon is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox fighter. So that's also an on paper statistically significant advantage there. Gordon has the UFC experience advantage over Jimmy with 3 more fights and 25 more minutes of octagon time. And both these guys have piss poor UFC striking metrics, but I would rate Gordon as the better striker. He looks cleaner. He's less awkward when he throws, and he actually has 5 pro wins by knockout when Flick has 0 pro wins by knockout. So, Flick is probably the only guy in the flyweight division who has more losses by knockout than Malcolm Gordon, but it's close. Flick has got 6 losses by KO in his career, and Gordon has 5. Neither one of these guys really relies on their striking to win fights, but Gordon is definitely the guy more likely to win minutes and moments when this fight is at distance striking range. And Malcolm has definitely fought the tougher level of competition overall at the UFC level. And even though Flick is a really dangerous submission grappler, Malcolm Gordon is a black belt in his own right. But Jimmy Flick's advantages, he has the overall experience advantage over Malcolm. He's got 2 more professional fights, 45 more minutes of pro cage time, in about 2.5 more years as a pro fighter. And Jimmy's a killer be killed fighter. And the way he kills is with the submission. Jimmy's 14 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his pro career. And when fights get to the ground, he's hyper aggressive. He chains submission attempts together until one finally works. Jimmy was credited with 7 submission attempts in his Dana White Contender Series fight against Nate Smith, and he finished his only UFC submission attempt, which was a flying triangle against Cody Durden. Jimmy can wrestle, but as long as the fight goes to the ground, that's all that matters. He's a fish out of water on the feet, and he really isn't dangerous or comfortable until he starts grappling. His UFC grappling metrics aren't eye-popping, and he is a minute loser on the ground, but he's willing to trade those losing minutes on the mat because it puts him in the only place he's ready to win moments. Flick has never won a fight by knockout. It's pretty much submission or bust for Jimmy in this fight because Malcolm has him covered at distance striking range. And Jimmy's UFC win over Cody Durden rates better than Gordon's wins over Francisco Figueiredo and Dennis Bondar. So in summary, Flick and Gordon have 14 professional losses combined between them. And 13 of those 14 losses were finishes. Both of these guys are not durable. Gordon's chin is glass, yet it's Flick who actually has been knocked out 1 more time than Gordon has. It's hard to picture this fight going the full 15 because of the durability concerns, but also because 25 of Gordon and Flick's 30 combined pro wins are finishes. Flick has looked horrible after his 2-year retirement, being knocked out in the first round by Charles Johnson and then finished 1 minute into the second round by Alessandro No Costa. But it should be noted that both of those guys would also shave Malcolm Gordon's ass. Both guys are on 2-fight losing streaks, but what we saw out of Gordon in the Makayev fight was encouraging. He hung in there and had a competitive grappling match with a young phenom, and if he can hang with Muhammad, I think he can stay safe from Flick on the mat, or maybe even find a submission of his own, as Malcolm's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I bet the under 1.5 rounds here at minus 125 for 1.25 units. And I do expect someone to get finished in the first round or two. I'm going to pick Malcolm to win this fight by second round KO because his recent form has been better. I like his UFC experience advantage, and I don't have to worry about him getting knocked out unless it's from ground and pound here. Gordon's chin is his biggest weakness, but that's not going to be a problem against Jimmy Flick. So I think Malcolm fighting at home in Canada will find the dub here by being the better striker and a competent grappler who can survive the early burst from Flick, who's largely a front-loaded fighter. So yeah, I'm going to pick what did I give an official? Yeah, I'm picking Malcolm Gordon to win this fight by second round knockout. So Malcolm Gordon by KO in round number 2 is my official prediction. And the tracked action that I do have on this fight is 1.25 units on the under 1.5 rounds. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here about this fight. Yes, we've got, let's see here. Oh, I missed a couple of these. So Cuban Assassin saying, what it do, Weezy? Are we sure our guy Strickland isn't from Stockton? He might be a cousin of the Diaz brothers with his pure manliness. And yeah, that's a definite possibility. I think Sean is a California kid. I don't know where he's from there, but I think he is a California guy, born and bred. So yeah, he could have like, it might be something in the water there. I mean, for sure, because Strickland is just ready to throw down at any time. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of the Diaz brothers, but he's just way better on the mic than those guys were, man. We got Silky B in the room saying the book's got psychics on staff with that Izzy promo. No doubt, man. It's wild how they get those prop boosts, right? That's what our guy Kiwi was telling us, is that one of the Australian books, you know, because Tom Nolan was like minus 350 on the money line. It was getting crazy. They were offering them at plus 100. So yeah, they must have had a hunch, man. Real Fight Picks is in the room saying, oi, pretty easy reads this week. I like weeks like this one. Yeah, me too, man, for sure. This is it's always there are certain stylistic matchups that you're more comfortable making bets on than others, and I just feel like this card is a lot more ripe for betting opportunities than the last one was. My guy Victor in the room saying, oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? We got Real Fight Picks saying I'd pick Gordon with a hedge on flick by sub. Yeah, I mean, flick by sub could, you know, it should be an auto bet in any one of his fights. He can catch anybody, and he's just relentless chaining them together. Malcolm Gordon has lost a couple times by submission. So, you know, I mean, because this line is going to keep moving, and we're going to see Flick, you know, go from plus 170 to potentially plus 200 or plus 225, that sub prop might get a little bit juicy. So it might be something to keep your eye on. We got Brady Stevens in the room saying, oi, this will be my first UFC I'm seeing live. Can't wait. Good luck on your bets on this week, Uncle Weezy. You too, my man, and enjoy those fights up there in Canada. I'm sure it is going to be an absolute barn burner up there. Make some money and enjoy. Excuse me. We got JP Taylor saying this is a setup to start the card with a Canadian winning. A lot of the fights like this on the card, the value is gone for sure on Gordon's money line for now. Yeah, dude, it's gone. Because, like I said, guys, he was available at minus 150 just 24 hours ago. I swear to God. So it's really hard to get to the minus 203. But I promised myself that I wasn't going to bet on either of these guys because of what mentally it would do to me if I lost money betting on Jimmy Flick or on Malcolm Gordon. So I said under 1.5 rounds, small 1.25 unit bet, nothing out of the ordinary there, and that is how I'm playing this one. Got a little tickle in my throat, you guys. I am feeling a lot better, though. We got, I'm not a big fan on betting this fight. A lot of questions. Yeah, dude, I agree with you, man. I just think that what isn't questioned is that both guys are finishers and both guys are very not durable. So I do think it's finishing. Gerald Garden saying Flick injury. I haven't heard anything about that, but I think he might get injured in this fight because Gordon might knock him senseless. Anything can happen here, but Flick's been knocked out a lot. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight, which is going to be Jasmine Jasudavicius against Priscila, the zombie girl, Cachoeira. We got Jasudavicius is a big favorite here at minus 360 on the money line. Zombie girl plus 285, and the fight doesn't go to decision. Just barely plus money here, which you don't usually see for women's fights. Usually you see a much bigger plus money number on women's fights, but plus 110 for the fight doesn't go to decision here. So this is a great fight. Great clash of styles here. Now, Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to be 6 months younger than Priscila, and she's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. And Jasmine's very durable. She definitely has a solid chin, and that's going to be important against Cachoeira, who hits really hard. Jasmine has never been finished in her 12-fight pro career, and she's never been dropped in the UFC. That's going to be that's a good thing to lean on, and I think that's one of the reasons why she is such a big favorite, because anybody could be sparked by Cachoeira. But at least if you know that the person that's fighting Cachoeira can win minutes on the ground and can absorb a punch, it makes you a lot more confident in their chances to win. The best part of Jasmine's MMA skill set is her wrestling and grappling games that she has. Jasmine gets 1.8 takedowns per 15 minutes on 5.6 attempts. She's attempted 65% of the takedowns, gotten 75% of the total takedowns in her fights, but she's winning over 91% of the control time positions her fights have been in. So the efficiency is very good, as well as is the activity, the offensive activity in the grappling exchanges. She really does excel in these control time positions and on the mat. This is where Jasmine needs to dominate this fight in order to look, minus 360, because on the feet, Jasmine gets hit way too often, and Priscila's power is not something you want to willingly engage with. And Jasmine has fought the UFC competition with the better overall win-loss ratio. As you see, it's 1.88 here for Jasmine, while it's 1.31 for Priscila. Now, Priscila's advantages, she has the overall and the UFC experience advantages. She's got 5 more pro fights, 140 more minutes of pro cage time, and 3 more years as a professional fighter. Cachoeira also has the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights and 125 more minutes of octagon time. Priscila's a finisher. She has a 58% career finish rate in her 12 pro wins, all 7 finishes coming by way of knockout, and she's finished 3 of her 4 UFC wins, displaying that power, KOing Shanna Dobson, Gina Mazzani, and Ariane Lipsky, who's on a roll right now. Priscila finishes fights, and Jasmine doesn't. Priscila is without question the far more dangerous striker in this matchup. Now, she's not technical. She's not smooth. She doesn't set up strikes and set traps. She doesn't mix up her weapons well. She walks forward like Jason Voorhees with a machete. She has her right hand cocked right up here by her chin, ready to unload bombs, and jaw help you if she connects. Priscila has rare power for the division, so all the things you normally need to do at this level to win minutes and moments don't really apply to her, because she's durable, she pressures nonstop, and she throws with really nasty intentions. There's really nothing eye-catching about Cachoeira's metrics on paper, but when you watch her fight, it's clear she has serious power, and every second you stand at distance striking range with her is taking a massive and potentially unnecessary risk. And Priscila has fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced level of UFC competition. As you see, like the total fights for Jasmine is around 4.6, but the total fights of experience of Cachoeira's opponents around 9.2. So she's definitely fighting the more experienced level of UFC competition. So in summary, this is as striker versus grappler as it gets. Jasmine's striking is flat out not UFC level yet, and Priscila should win the minutes and moments at range. But the question is, how long does it stay at range? Probably not for long, because Priscila allows 1.94 takedowns per 15 minutes. 1.94, and over 33% control time to her opponents. And Jasmine is going to be proactive getting this fight to the ground. Priscila is going to pressure on the feet, but she needs to be very careful to pressure in an intelligent fashion, because if she gets reckless and winds up clinching up with Jasmine, she's getting taken down. And once Jasmine gets her opponent down, she's excellent at maintaining control, advancing position, and landing ground and pound. It sounds obvious, and it is. Whoever is successful in implementing their game plan wins this fight. If Priscila keeps it standing, she wins, I think. If Jasmine gets it to the clinch and gets takedowns, she wins minutes and possibly moments on the ground. Jasmine is a minus 400 favorite, and I get it. Her performance versus Miranda Maverick, a fighter that Cachoeira was submitted by, was a real eye-opener. The hole in Cachoeira's grappling defense is obviously going to be there to be exploited. Jasmine wins 91% of the control time positions her fights are in, and Cachoeira wins 6.5% of the control time positions in her fight. So you see all this green here for Jasmine Jasudavicius in the control time stats, and you see all this red here where Cachoeira has her grappling stats, or I mean control time stats. So what that indicates, you guys, on my spreadsheet is that there is a massive differential when it comes to who is able to win minutes when this fight gets to the fence and when this fight gets to the clinch. And that is clearly where Jasmine Jasudavicius is strongest and where Priscila Cachoeira is the weakest. Here's a very important stat that illustrates the problems Priscila has with grapplers. In the fights where her opponents attempted at least one takedown against her, Priscila is 1 win and 4 losses in those 5 fights. She's allowed 12 takedowns on 35 attempts against in those fights. That's 3.5 takedowns allowed per 15 minutes. And in those fights where she's 1 and 4 and where opponents have attempted 1 takedown or more against her, Priscila Cachoeira is allowing over 55% control time to her opponents in those fights. Those kind of defensive grappling stats against fighters that bothered to wrestle are exactly why Jasmine Jasudavicius is 80% implied to win this fight. Obviously, I worry about what happens if Zombie Girl lands a bomb, but Jasmine's very durable, and I think she might be able to absorb 1 or 2 big shots and still be able to wrestle. I'm picking Jasmine Jasudavicius to win this fight by decision, and if I get a good line on that decision prop or go with Jasmine round 3 decision at a reasonable price, that might be a play for me this week. I am really looking at that. Priscilla's very durable and has a ton of heart. She's not going to give up. And even when she gets put in bad situations, she's going to keep scrapping, and she's almost guaranteed to cheat as well. So you like those fighters that'll cheat for your money, you know, that have power in this division and that aren't going to give up on you and are going to be there for the full 15 minutes if that's what it takes to finally try to find that one big shot that changes the fight. But yeah, I'm going with Jasmine Jasudavicius to win this fight by decision. So look at Jasmine there, decision, and there we go. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. All right. And Brady Stevens was saying, I was surprised that Gordon had a decent showing against Mikhaev. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty, it was a good performance against a good fighter. So we know that, like, just the recent form for Malcolm Gordon's been a little bit better than Flicks for sure. Louis Bond in the room saying, I feel like Malcolm gets it done. Yeah, man, I agree with you, dude. I'm picking him to win that fight for sure. But you know, we know what Flick, his strengths are, and we know that he could potentially pull something out of his ass. Gordon could also miss weight. That would be interesting if he did. JP saying fight might not even go down. Yeah, that's always a possibility up here at this level right now. Bob Spikerman saying, my lady Myra Bueno Silva. There you go. We got Real Fight Pick saying Jasmine is a dog, but she lacks finishing ability. I still pick her. Yes, I do too. I agree with that. Remdog saying, I would like Jasmine by decision if I could count on catch a beating, not to just quit. Dude, Remdog, she's not a quitter. She'll cheat. I mean, like she was dead in a rear naked choke, and she tried to gouge Gillian Robertson's eye out. Miranda Maverick was just relentless with the wrestling, and she grabbed the fence with her hands and her toes several different times, trying to get any kind of an advantage to get it back to distance striking range. I think you can count on catch a beating, not to quit. What I worry about is that Jasmine gets to a dominant position. I mean, and at the end of the second round of the Fernandez fight for Jasudavicius, she almost finished that fight with crucifix ground and pound elbows from the crucifix position. And I could see her getting to a dominant position on Priscila Cachoeira because her grappling defense is just that bad. And potentially the refs could come in, stop the fight. So, I mean, that could happen. But I still think Jasmine by decision is the way to go with this one. Cachoeira is a live dog and a mean dog. Yeah, she is both of those things. We got Taveras saying, are we overpaying for the over in this one? Let's look at the prop template, my friend, because we always know what the prices are and we always know what the analytics are when you subscribe to your Uncle Weezy's Patreon. So the over 2.5 at minus 160 is actually a trifecta bet, which means that it's slightly underpriced for the over. So you're not really overpaying it. For all 5 of Jasmine Jasudavicius's UFC fights have went over 2.5 rounds. 4 of 9 for Cachoeira have went over 2.5. So that's 64.3%. But at minus 160 for the over, we're only paying 61.5% on the line. And the fights go over 2.5 rounds in the featherweight division 63% of the time. So that price at 61 is a little bit lower than the divisional benchmark, and it's a little bit lower than the combined over 2.5 rate of Cachoeira and Jasudavicius at the UFC level. So the prop template thinks that this is a very fairly priced line here that has just a tiny bit of value, just a tiny bit of edge over the books here, and that these violence lines are just slightly overpriced according to the metrics. But the metrics are a nice guide, but at the end of the day, the stylistic matchup of the fight means so much in your handicapping for how you pick where these fights are going to finish. So this is a great tool. It gives you great information, but you also have to consider the stylistic matchup as well. All right. And we got Lone Wolf DFS in the room saying, what up, Weezy? We got Rem Dog saying, I mean, at this point in her career, keeps missing weight, doesn't seem to care. That's another thing. Priscila Cachoeira misses weight constantly. I mean, Priscila Catcha Cheating is one of the great nicknames that my guy Brady gave to her. It's a beautiful one because she will cheat. She'll cheat at the scale. She'll try to gouge your eyes out. She'll grab the fence with her hand. She'll grab the toes, put her toes in the cage. She'll throw like a handful of sand at her opponents to blind her opponents. She'll pull a foreign object out of her tights. You leave it to Priscila. You find a way to cheat. Priscila has considered it or probably done it. And Teretea Paku saying, I don't mind that over. Might end up in a parlay. Yeah, it's not terrible because Jasudavicius isn't a great finisher. And Priscila Cachoeira is very durable and has a ton of heart. And we do know that at minus 400, she's a big favorite, Jasudavicius, to win this fight. Immaculatan saying Zombie Girl is better striker, but doesn't control range at all. She's going to stumble into Jazz and get taken down multiple times for sure. And yeah, I mean, like her pressure is kind of intelligent. She does stalk, but she doesn't just walk straight forward. But you're right. Sometimes when she throws those attacks, Immaculatan, that's when she gets a little bit sloppy. She is trying to take your head off, and that's where like Jasmine can kind of duck under that straight right and maybe get in on the hips. And then once she clinches up with Priscila, even though Priscila is strong and tough in the clinch, that's where Jasmine just wears on you and she gets those trip takedowns. Jasmine isn't really an open mat wrestler. She's a phenomenal cage wrestler. She's got great judo trips and sweeps and reaps, and does really fantastic cage wrestling, which is a great skill to have at this level. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next fight here, which is going to be Yohan Lainesse going up against Sam the Future Patterson. We have got Lainesse is a minus 148 favorite here. Sam Patterson plus 128, the underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits, ladies and gentlemen, at minus 650. And minus 650 for this fight, that is an 86.67% implied probability that this fight finishes inside the distance right now, according to the books. So the bookies are expecting a finish in this fight. Let's just put it that way. So let's first start talking about Yohan Lainesse here. Now, Yohan has the UFC experience advantage over Sam. He's got 2 more fights and over 25 more minutes of cage time. And Yohan is the far more dangerous striker. especially early in the fight. We've seen Patterson get knocked out in his only 2 pro losses, and Lainesse is a front-loaded fighter with a ton of power who's 6 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in his pro career. Yohan is landing a knockdown on 1.72% of the distance strikes that he lands, and against a chinny, tall guy like Patterson, a guy with Yohan's power really only needs to land once early, and it can win him this fight. His striking isn't particularly technical. He switches stances sometimes, but mostly stays orthodox. He throws a power overhand right, a check left hook, and he mixes in some body and head kicks, and he will throw some massive uppercuts. Pretty basic meat and potatoes weapons that work, and he throws them heavy. Pretty much everything he throws is meant to knock you out, and that is what makes him dangerous. He isn't really looking to win minutes with his striking. He just wants to flatline you. Now, Sam Patterson is a huge lightweight at 6'3" with a 78-inch reach, but this is going to be his welterweight debut. He's almost 4 years younger than Yohan, and he's going to have a 2-inch height and a 2-inch reach advantage over Yohan. So even though he's moving up 15 pounds, he's still going to be absolutely massive at this weight class. And hopefully for Sam, that really helps out his ability to be able to take a punch because he's not cutting an absurd amount of weight. Now, Sam has a slight overall experience advantage over Yohan. He's got 2 more fights and 10 more minutes of pro cage time in 1 more year as a professional fighter. Sam is without question the better conditioned athlete. This guy has conditioning for days, and frankly, his opponent Lainesse has awful conditioning. So after the first round, it'll be natural to see Patterson take over this fight with his pressure, pace, and volume if he can survive the early going where Yohan packs a ton of power. And Sam has a 90% finish rate in his 10 pro wins, and he's an equal opportunity finisher with 5 wins by submission and 4 by knockout. He's a solid finisher wherever the fight goes. He has good power on the feet and a nasty power gilly when fights are in the grappling transitions. Lainesse should be the more dangerous striker. He should be the better striker, but Sam Patterson won't be out of his depth there. He's also very good at distance striking range. It's just we worry a little bit about the durability of Sam. Now, he uses his length really well at distance striking range. He stays behind a stiff jab. He moves well laterally while maintaining distance. He throws a variety of kicks, so he could take advantage of his length and his excellent conditioning. It makes it easy for him to be a hard target to find due to the fact that he's constantly moving laterally and he has the conditioning to be able to do that. Sam has a beautiful 1-2, and his distant management, it allows him to fight long and take advantage of that 78-inch reach that he has. And Sam is most dangerous in the grappling transitions. Once again, his conditioning and length allow him to be dangerous on the mat, and his power guillotine is his go-to move, either to defend takedown attempts or find offense when he's the one on top. That length of his makes his gilly, his front headlock series, and his ability to get sweeps and take backs a real problem to deal with. And he's looked really good on the regional scene against a few of these Russian crotch sniffers over in Brave FC by defending well on the mat, outlasting his opponents, and snatching up their necks when they inevitably get tired by trying to constantly wrestle him. So this is a fun fight. The current price on Patterson is cheap due to the recency bias, but the move up in weight class to 170 pounds, along with the almost year-long break that he's been on, and he's still only 27 years old, has me liking his upside here. Lainesse is very powerful, especially early in fights, and Patterson has been knocked out in his only 2 pro losses. So that's obviously very troubling info if you're on the Patterson side. On the flip side, we know that Lainesse doesn't have 15 minutes of conditioning and that Patterson's cardio is elite. So every minute of this fight that passes by without Lainesse flatlining Sam Patterson is pushing the odds into Sam's favor. I could see a first-round finish from Yohan, and I could see a third-round finish by Sam, but I'm picking Sam to win this fight due to the youth, the height, the reach, the conditioning and the grappling advantages that he has. But I'm very aware that a first or second round KO is also live for Lainesse. But we have to consider the possibility that the move up to 170 could make Patterson more resilient and durable due to not having to cut to 155 pounds at 6'3". Sam also has power, but I'll go with the conditioning advantage and the youth of Patterson and pick him to win by third round submission in this fight. Look, we always want to bet on conditioning when we can, and there is a massive conditioning differential in this fight. And I know that people are worried about the chin of Patterson, but you have to consider that moving from 155 to 170 could potentially make him a lot more durable. So I just think that this is a great opportunity to take care or to take advantage of recency bias and get Sam Patterson at plus money here. So I'm picking him to win by third round submission, and that could be a nice fat line to throw a little sprinkle on to try to bring back 2 or 3 units this week. So Sam, the future Patterson, to win this fight by third round submission against the hometown fighter, Canada. Stand up. Yohan Lainesse is from Canada. So it's going to be interesting. Sam Patterson is going to have to come all the way from the UK to fight in front of a hostile crowd and get this win. So it's, you know, I see why he's at plus money here, but this is going to be a really fun fight. Somebody said, I forgot who said this, but they said that even Sam Patterson, he keeps his chin too high, even in his Tapology picture. You see, it's definitely too high there. So I hope he doesn't do that in the fight. But let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got Patterson sub prop, maybe. Yeah, even Patterson second round sub, Patterson third round sub, Patterson just buys sub because his guillotine is nasty. And the thing is that it's not just Lainesse who has power, you guys. You go and look at some of these wins by knockout that Sam Patterson has. He beat Felipe Silva in round 1 over there in Brave, knocked him out in the first round with a nasty shot. So, you know, Sam's got power in his own right. And, you know, I think that there's a number of ways that he could get the job done here. Sam Patterson inside the distance could be an interesting way to look at it this week. Either of these guys inside the distance, because when a sharp book like Bet Online is saying, hey, minus 650 for fight doesn't go to decision, we can look at what the inside the distance props here are on Bet Online, and it is Lainesse minus 110 and Sam Patterson plus 145. So not a lot of meat on that bone for either guy. Either way, that's going to be a hell of a fight. My guy Moyes is in the room saying Sam has precision, straighter shots, fishpole arms for chokes. Dude, I agree with you. I'm picking him to win this one, man. I like this spot for him. Remdog saying Yohan winds up, telegraphs his strike so bad, wanted to fade him, but I have doubts about Patterson and don't know what to think about him moving up. Does it increase his durability? Well, yeah, they say that. Look, when you cut weight for a fight, what you're essentially doing is, since most of these guys are already in phenomenal shape, most of these guys already have body fat percentages that are very low. What you do is you dehydrate yourself in order to make weight. And it's not just the fluid in your body. There's fluid that protects your brain from hitting, you know, the skull, the inside of the skull whenever there's impact. And the more weight that you cut, you are going to lose some of that brain fluid as well. All the fluid starts to get drained out of your body. That's how these people who make massive weight cuts do that. So that's why you see guys that go down a weight class, oftentimes the durability doesn't go down with them. We have the same pick. Yes, sir, we do. Easy Bets is in the room saying, what's good, Onk? We are ready to stack cash tickets like flapjacks here. Let's keep moving, you guys. Let's talk about the fourth fight of the night, which is going to be Gillian the Savage Robertson at minus 250 going up against Polyana Viana. She is a plus 210 underdog. The fight doesn't go to decision for a women's mixed martial arts fight, is juiced to the tits here at minus 175. So let's first start talking about the advantages that Gillian Robertson has in this spot. She is 3 years younger than Polyana Viana. Gillian has the overall and the UFC experience advantages with one more professional fight and 100 more minutes of pro cage time in two less years as a professional. So she's also been the more active fighter as a pro. Gillian also has the UFC experience advantage over Poly with 6 more fights and 80 more minutes of octagon time. Gillian's done a great job of winning both minutes and moments in the grappling exchanges. She averages 2.46 takedowns per 15 minutes on 5.95 attempts. She has an above average 41% takedown accuracy. She also does a good job of out-controlling her opponents, winning 69% of the control time positions that her fights are in. There is definitely a minute winning differential in this matchup when it comes to the grappling exchanges. Once again, it's very similar to the Jasudavicius Cachoeira fight, as we see a bunch of green here in the Gillian Robertson control time stats and a bunch of red here in the Polyana Viana. So that indicates a minute winning differential for Gillian Robertson in the grappling exchanges. And both of these ladies spend more than 50% of their fights in control time positions. So this is, the stats aren't always helpful, but in certain stylistic matchups, the stats are very helpful. And in this case, what we see is that, yes, if this fight goes to the ground, Polly's going to be losing the minutes and Gillian's going to be winning the minutes there. But we always also have to worry about which one wins the moments should it get there as well. And I think that Polyana is just as live as Gillian to do exactly that. So here's Gillian's grappling stats. She averages 2.46 takedowns per 15 minutes on 5.95 attempts. She's got above average 41% takedown accuracy. She also does a good job of out-controlling her opponents, winning 69% of the control time positions that her fights are in. There's definitely a minute winning differential in this matchup when it comes to the grappling exchanges. Gillian wins 69% of the control time positions, and Polyana only wins 17%. And Gillian tries more than twice as many takedowns per 15. So I do think she's the much more likely fighter to win the minutes on the mat. And Gillian has fought and beaten the better win-loss ratioed and more experienced UFC competition, according to my metric. Now, Polly has a 4-inch reach advantage over Gillian. Both these ladies are big-time finishers, but Polly has a 100% pro finish rate, and she's more diverse with 5 knockouts and 8 submissions, while Gillian is almost entirely reliant on the submission with 9 subs and only 1 knockout in her finishes and an 83% finish rate. Polly has the far superior UFC striking metrics, along with a 4-inch reach advantage over Gillian. Polly's got a positive 1.04 distance striking differential compared to negative 1.64 for Gillian. Polly stays busy, attempting 14.61 distance strikes per minute, and she has a positive 3.72 distance strike attempt differential, so she's much busier than her opponents are. In addition, Polly has real power. She has a UFC knockdown and a UFC win by knockout over Jin Yu Fry. She also knocked out Amanda Ribas on the regional scene. Polly stays long when she strikes. She uses her length well, and she throws straight punches down the pipe that she sits down on. She's 5 wins and 0 losses to the KO in her career. So she's dangerous winning moments wherever the fight goes, as evidenced by her 100% finish rate as a pro. And Polyana is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with a very dangerous and opportunistic submission game. She's 8 wins and 2 losses to the submission in her pro career, and she's most dangerous from the guard, where she loves to throw up arm bars. She's definitely willing to lose minutes on the ground in order to set up her submissions, so that makes her more of a moment winner. Now, this is a pretty interesting matchup. We got 2 high-level grapplers, one more of a minute winner in Robertson, Viana more of a moment loser, more moment winner, submission or bust grappler. but very dangerous and opportunistic is Polyana. On the feet, I definitely favor Viana's length, technical striking skills, power, and volume. I think she wins the minutes and moments at range, but we can't count on Viana to stuff a takedown. So Gillian should be able to get her down at will whenever she doesn't like how the striking is going. I think this is going to be a close fight, and I think Viana is the more dangerous fighter wherever the fight goes. But Gillian's path to winning minutes with takedowns, top control, ground and pound, and good submission defense is wide open. So I think that's how she wins. I think she actually wins a grappling-based decision win because I don't think she's going to submit Polly, even though the only way that Polly has ever been finished is by submission. And she's been finished by submission twice at the UFC level. Those losses here available in my advanced stats came to Veronica Macedo, now Veronica Hardy in round number 1, and to Jasmine Lucindo the last time out in round number 2. Wow, Jasmine, she's a huge straw weight. But yeah, grappling-based decision win is what I'm going with for Gillian Robertson in this spot. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Leon Edwards in the room, your champion. He agrees with the Gillian Robertson, the Savage pick. Good to see you in here, Leon Edwards. Big ups on that win over Colby. Colby just didn't have anything for you, and you really confused the shit out of him. Nice work, man. Okay, I'm better. All right, next fight, you guys. It's going to be Surrey City at minus 175 going up against Ramon Taveras, which I'm mispronouncing. It's Taveras. It's Ramon Taveras. He's plus 150, and the fight doesn't go to decision. It's minus 260. Man, I see a name like Taveras, and I think it's Greek, because Greek names end in A-S, I-S, O-S, O-U. And whenever I see that AS, it's just wild. I think it's Greek, and it's definitely not Greek. Ramon is not Greek, but minus 175 for Surrey, plus 150 for Ramon. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up pretty good here at minus 260. The bookies are clearly expecting violence. Now, you don't really see any stats up on the screen because both of these guys are making their UFC debut. So all we really have of note here are the finished stats, the tail of the tape, and the experience numbers and the last 5 fights. Now, Surrey City is going to be 2.5 years younger, 3 inches taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage over Ramon Taveras. And he's also a switch stance fighter against a southpaw in Taveras, which is also an on paper statistically significant advantage. But it's just on paper, Surrey has the overall experience advantage. They have the same amount of pro fights, Ramon and Surrey, but Surrey's got over 50 more minutes of pro cage time, and he's got 1 more year as a professional fighter. And Surrey's well-rounded. I've seen him do good work on tape at distance striking range, show a strong clinch game, and on the mat, he's also solid. He showed excellent submission defense and heart in the Matteo Vogel fight, and he has a good offensive submission game of his own. He showed off against Platon to win the BFL Bantamweight Championship. The conditioning is there. The heart and durability check out. He has good size and length for the division, and he has good stand-up, and he flashes power there. He's finished fights twice due to landing body shots, and his ground game is solid, and his submission defense is pretty good. We still don't know how his skills will translate at the UFC level, but what we've seen so far indicates this kid, Surrey City, is a pretty good prospect, and he's still only 27 years old. Now, Ramon Taveras has some really nice pocket boxing. He's a pressure fighter, which allows him to stay in the pocket while keeping his opponent on the back foot. This style is going to serve him well against a tall, rangy fighter like Surrey City. Ramon has great head movement, and he's an accurate and crisp counter striker. Ramon's pressure-heavy, get in the pocket and brawl style serves really plays to his strengths as a fighter. Ramon has a solid submission game as well. 3 of his 9 pro wins do come by way of submission. He has 2 rear naked chokes and 1 high elbow guillotine to his credit. So he doesn't just depend on his pocket boxing to win fights. And I'm glad we get to see this rematch. And it is a rematch of a Dana White Contender Series fight, which was a fun fight until the premature stoppage from referee Kevin McDonald. Taveras got dropped by a big shot, but he was defending himself intelligently, and he was definitely not about to get finished there. Before the stoppage, both guys were having success, but Taveras in particular was successful with his pressure, getting into boxing range, and he had landed at least one heavy 1-2 that sounded nasty, but it was Sidey that found the precise shot that changed that fight. The first time around, Sidey was a minus 185 favorite. I think Taveras was around a plus 155 dog, and we see the line is very similar this time around. I think this line is right about where it should be, and here's why. Sidey is younger. He's taller. He's longer. He's got the experience advantage combined with the fact that he's already beaten Taveras the first time around. But I think that this fight promises to be close. I do lean with Sidey's advantages here, the youth, the height, the reach, the 5-round experience in BFL, along with the durability advantage, as Taveras has been knocked out in both of his pro losses, but Sidey has never been finished as a professional. I can also see Taveras using his pressure to get into the pocket and being the guy landing the bigger shots in this spot. It's a very close fight, in my opinion. I think it was playing out very close, and who knows what would have happened had that fight been allowed to continue. But I think that Sidey would have definitely won that first round. And there are some on-paper advantages that we've already discussed here. So the official pick is going to be Sidey. I'm going to pick him to win this fight by decision because I don't know what Taveras' durability really is like. The other time that he was knocked out, it was because of a head kick, and it was just a head kick that landed clean. He got dropped. Referee jumped in immediately. So, if Sidey doesn't land that one-hitter quitter in this spot, will Taveras' pressure and volume and forward pressure be what wins this fight? So I think both of these guys have a path here. The pick is going to be Sidey to win this fight by decision, but honestly, I think a minus 175 is kind of a lot, seeing how that fight played out the first time. So it's a kind of a confusing fight. I don't have any action on this fight. There we go. But I'm gonna pick Sidey to win this fight by decision. But like I said, I think it's gonna be a close one, you guys. I think it's gonna be really closely contested. What are you guys up to in the chat here? We got JP Taylor in the room saying, in the first fight, Sidey looked like he was up a weight class on Taveras. Yeah, dude, he's huge. Sidey is a huge lightweight. So, yeah, he's going to be the much bigger guy here. Or they're not lightweights. They're bantamweights. They're bantamweights. Remdog saying, I parlayed Sidey on DWCS at a longer number than this, so got to do it again at the minus 175. Yeah, man, it's going to be a fun fight, dude. Is Taveras at Team Alpha Male now? So Taveras was over at Team Alpha Male between the Sidey fight and the Ramius fight. And I think maybe even like for a week, a week or two, he got out to Team Alpha Male. But Taveras is a Bulldog Boxing Club guy. That's where where he cut his teeth, and that's where he's done probably 98% of his training as a mixed martial artist. But now that Taveras is in the UFC, he might want to move to a bigger camp. We'll see. But he normally trains in Jacksonville, Florida at Bulldog Boxing Club. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next fight. We got 48 of you guys hanging out live in here. Hit that thumbs up for me. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And please consider joining the Patreon and leaving me a comment down below. I'd love to hear what your leans are for this card. If you got any parlays that you're putting together, or if you disagree with any of my picks, or even agree with them, let's chat it up in that comment section. All right, next fight, you guys, is gonna be Charles Jourdain at minus 183, the Canadian product, going up against Sean Woodson at plus 158. We've got an under 2.5 round line available here at Bet Online Sportsbook, and it is plus money here at plus 120. This is the only fight that I was unable to tape in time for tonight's show, and I haven't written this fight up yet, but I definitely have some stylistic reads, and we can go through the stats here. Now, first of all, Sean Woodson, 5 inches taller and has a 9-inch reach advantage over Charles Jourdain. And Woodson is a phenomenal minute winner in the boxing exchanges here. He uses his length very well. He throws straight punches down the pipe. He's got great footwork. And not a lot of power, but the minute winning is there, you guys. Look at all this green for the offensive distance striking stats here for both guys, really. Jourdain does an excellent job here, and so does Sean Woodson. But Sean Woodson with a positive 2.66 distance striking differential, landing 8.13 distance strikes per minute spent at distance, 3.33 more than the divisional average, and he attempts 17.95, which is almost 6 more than the divisional average, over 45% accuracy, way above average for the division, and the 60% defense right around in the meaty part of the curve here. Sean is bony, tall, skinny for this division, and because of that, he's not the most powerful striker. He uses his length very well. He'll use those kicks as well as his punches to kind of just keep that range, keep his feet moving, and be able to kind of just stick and move, and make it really difficult for his opponents to kind of close the distance and land anything of significance. Sean hasn't fought the best level of competition. The wins aren't particularly impressive. Yusuf Zalal by split decision, which was a very close fight. Colin Anglin by knockout, and then Dennis Bazookier by unanimous decision. The Saldana fight, he almost got finished in the first round, got 10-8'd, and then wound up getting a split draw in that fight. And but what we saw in the Julian Erosa fight, I thought was really interesting for Woodson, and that was when Erosa realized, that this guy's punches don't hurt, and he walked through them and he marched him down, putting the constant pressure on him, and that was what wound up doing it. And I think that that's what Charles Jourdain has to do here, because if he tries to play a point fighting battle with a guy that throws more volume than him, with a guy that's slightly more accurate than him, with a guy that's 5 inches taller than him and has a 9-inch reach advantage over him, that would be stupid, because that's a minute winning game plan. If you want to win moments, you need to walk forward. You need to get inside that massive height and reach disadvantage that you're at here, and you need to get in and hit this guy and knock him out, which is probably the way to beat him, because he's so skinny, because he's so tall. You land that big overhand right on this dude, and he is going to drop. So Jourdain, while he's at a massive size disadvantage here, he's the younger fighter by about 3.5 years. He's the more experienced fighter, is Jourdain, both overall and at the UFC level. He's got about twice as much UFC cage time, twice as many fights, and he's got almost twice as much pro cage time as well. Both of these guys can finish fights, but it's Charles Jourdain who's got an 86% career finish rate compared to 40% for Sean Woodson. And also Charles Jourdain is the much more durable fighter, as he's only been finished in 1 of 6 losses, while Sean Woodson has been finished in his only loss. And where Sean does his best work, which is in those distance striking exchanges, winning minutes, Jourdain wins minutes too. He's got a positive 0.95 distance striking differential. He lands 1.18 more distance strikes per minute than the division. He throws 1.36 more than the divisional average. He's got above average accuracy, slightly above average defense for the division. He throws more than his opponents. He lands more than his opponents. And he's got 6 UFC knockdowns in 12 fights, and he's finished 4 of his 6 UFC wins. So I really feel that outside of Charles fighting kind of like what I would kind of consider to be an unusual game plan for him, an unpredictable outcome would be him just staying at distance with this guy and trying to outpoint him. But I think Charles is gonna really try to march this guy down. I think there's a big power differential in this fight in favor of Charles Jourdain. I think there's a big durability advantage here for Charles Jourdain. There's a big experience advantage. He's younger. He's in front of the home crowd. He's been just a little bit busier lately. Um, yeah, I gotta favor Jourdain, and he's fought the better brand of competition as well. A 1.12 ratio overall to only 0.65 for Woodson. Both of these guys are beating guys with losing records, but Charles Jourdain much closer to a 1 ratio than Sean Woodson is, and Jourdain losing to the better brand of competition as well. So even though I didn't write up this fight and I haven't taped it yet, the official prediction is going to be Jourdain. And if you're going to pick Jourdain to finish a fight, like I'm picking him to finish a fight, it's got to be third round knockout, right, son? Maybe third round submission, but Charles Jourdain, round 3, always a bet that I think should be it should be in the chamber of your gun. He should be ready to fire anytime that this guy is fighting. And the only time that we've seen Sean Woodson lose as a professional, it was inside the distance, and it was in round number 3 against Julian Erosa, who Charles Jourdain actually has fought. So they do have that common opponent in Erosa, and Charles Jourdain lost to him as well in the 3rd round to a Darce choke, and Sean Woodson lost to him in the 3rd round due to a Darce choke. How about that? So the common opponent, the same outcome, both 3rd round submission losses, but I do think that it's going to be Woodson, or I'm sorry, Jourdain, who gets this one done this time, you guys. So I'm going with Charles Jourdain to win by KO in round number 3 here versus Sean Woodson. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Burner in the room saying, oi, hoi, hoi. What is happening, Burner? We got Bo Jackson saying Air Jourdain inside the distance. We got Burner saying Woodson decision. We got Teretea Paku. Yeah, and if Woodson does win, I think it's definitely by decision. So do we get much of a discount? If you're on that Woodson side, I'd like to see how much more meat on the bone there is on the decision prop. Oh, we don't have props out for this one yet. So, yeah. I don't think Jourdain will be able to close the distance easily, says Teretea. We'll probably eat a lot of jabs and straight shots trying to get into the red zone and land. I think the line is too wide. Yeah, I mean, it is a heroic task to close the distance on this guy. And Sean Woodson does have good footwork and moves laterally pretty well. So, it's going to be up to Jourdain to be proactive. And if he doesn't do that, and you're laying like minus 180 something on him, it's going to be very frustrating. Ben Ryder saying, thanks for everything. Appreciate you, Ben. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we got Remdog saying, I like Woodson here. He does a pretty good job of reversing positions in the clinch, and Jourdain's not taking him down. Yeah, Jourdain is not taking him down. He's really not a takedown artist. And I don't think that Sean will wrestle much unless Charles really relentlessly pressures him. Then he might actually reactively wrestle here. We got Miles in the room saying, oh, what's up, Miles? Thanks for joining us. All right, let's get to this next fight, you guys. It is going to be Brad Superman Katona going up against Garrett Armfield. Katona's a minus 185 favorite. Garrett Armfield plus 160. The fight doesn't go to decision, plus 125 for this fight. So let's first start talking about the advantages that Brad Katona has in this spot. He has the overall and the UFC experience advantages over Garrett. He's got 3 more professional fights than Garrett, 150 more minutes of cage time in 4 more years as a pro fighter. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights and over 60 more minutes of octagon time. Brad is an excellent minute winner. He's 9 wins and 2 losses to the decision in his pro career, and he has UFC level boxing, clinch game, wrestling, and his conditioning and durability are both excellent. Katona has never been finished in 15 professional fights, while Armfield has been submitted in 2 of his 3 pro losses. And Brad's boxing is solid. He moves his feet well. He uses his lateral movement to stay safe and avoid big shots. He has a nice jab and a great left hook, and he's technical and defensively responsible while he's at distance striking range. He doesn't flash much power, but he's durable, so he doesn't get dropped, and he's accurate with his strikes, landing at a 48% clip with a positive 0.18 distance striking differential. Brad's grappling metrics aren't awe-inspiring, but his efficiency in control time positions is impressive. Brad only gets his takedown attempts at a 21% rate, and his takedown defense is also far below average for the bantamweight division at 50%. Brad has 5 UFC takedowns, and he's allowed 9. But Brad still manages to outcontrol his opponents 21% to 13%, winning almost 61% of the control time positions his fights are in. Brad knows when to mix in the wrestling, and he uses his striking to set up his takedown entries. He has a very solid clinch game as well. So Brad knows how to fight smart and mix the martial arts in order to win the minutes of his fights. And Brad has fought the better level of competition at the UFC level. He's more experienced and has fought the higher level guys as a whole in comparison to Garrett. And Garrett is going to be 5 years younger than Brad Katona. He's got an impressive 6-inch reach advantage in this spot. That is something you have to take into consideration. And Garrett's a finisher, and Brad isn't. He's fought a lower level of competition than Katona has, but Armfield does have an 89% finish rate in 9 pro wins, 2 wins by submission, 6 by knockout. Garrett is way more explosive than Brad. This is definitely a minute winner versus moment winner matchup. And Garrett's boxing is solid. He doesn't have much of a sample size of UFC distance striking metrics, but what he does have indicates that Garrett stays busy, he's accurate, and he definitely flashes some power in his hands. Garrett is 6 wins and 0 losses to the knockout in his pro career, and he's 2 wins and 2 losses to the submission. So clearly Garrett is most dangerous at distance, and the combination of power and volume serve him pretty well. Now, there are a lot of reasons on paper to like the Brad Katona side here. He's more experienced overall and in the UFC. He's a well-rounded and experienced minute winner wherever the fight goes. His clinch game is good. He mixes in the wrestling and wins minutes there, and he's fought and beaten the better level of competition. However, laying minus 180 on a guy like Katona, who isn't a finisher and doesn't really put a stamp on his wins, it's a little risky. Garrett can keep this close on the feet. He's 5 years younger, and he has that 6-inch reach advantage, and I see Garrett having the power advantage on the feet as well. Brad does wrestle, but he only gets his takedowns at a 21% clip, so it's not a given that Brad wins a lot of minutes on the ground here. I'll pick Katona to win this fight by decision due to all the experience and fight IQ advantages that he has, and I parlayed the over 2.5 rounds in this fight because of Brad Katona's durability combined with his lack of finishing prowess. I think it's a really good spot. Brad Katona's never been finished. He's a very durable guy, and you'll see him get hit clean in some of his punches, and he eats it like a flapjack. So Garrett's really the guy that finishes fights, but he's going up against a guy who's never been finished in 15 professional fights. This guy's had 4 fights in the Ultimate Fighter House as well against big names like Kyler Phillips, Bryce Mitchell, Timur Valiev. He also fought Carlos Vera. He didn't, he won all 4 of those fights and didn't get finished, and he even finished, I think, Bryce Mitchell. So Katona is just a lot more experienced, a lot more well-rounded, a lot more of a known commodity, and he's also got the durability to kind of hold up to potentially to Armfield's biggest strikes. So the official pick is going to be Brad Katona by decision, and I have parlayed the over 2.5 rounds here. But I do think that this is going to be a close and competitive fight. Katona doesn't really pull away from his opponents, so it's always a little bit scary to lay juice on a guy like that. You know, in my opinion, even though we've seen Armfield get submitted a couple of times, you know, Armfield's still only 27 years old. You know, so he's going to be improving in between fights. So I think that Katona by decision is a nice way to play this fight because the Katona money line at minus 180, laying that kind of juice, going 65% deep on implied probability, is a little bit scary, but we can get Katona by points at plus money at plus 115. That brings you down to like 47% implied probability. So it knocks, you know, about 18% of implied probability off the price tag there. And then all you've got to hope is that Armfield doesn't wind up getting drowned on the mat here, which I mean, Katona's not that good of a wrestler. So, you know, like I say, I think that this is going to be close, probably Katona by points, but that over 2.5 rounds at minus 172, I think is a nice bet this week, you guys. So yeah, Superman Brad Katona to win this fight by decision is your Uncle Weezy's pick. What do you guys got to say to your Uncle Weezy in the chat? Miles saying, Unc, hope all is well. Feeling better, my man. 2024 is upon us. I'm ready to rock, dude. Katona has the most punchable face. I love it. We got King. Big ups, Easy Bets. Always good to see you in here, my man. King James saying, DuPlessis could stub his toe and pull out of another title opportunity. I don't think that that's going to happen, King James. He's ready to go. Sean Strickland's an interesting matchup for him. I like Gordon and Flick under 1.5, says Burner. Well, you and me both, buddy, because I've got that as a tracked bet this week. So we are on the same page there. All right, let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Arnold Allen, the Almighty, at plus 166 going up against Movsar Evloev, who does not have a nickname, and minus 191. We got fight doesn't go to decision at plus 240 for this fight. The bookies are definitely expecting this one to go the full 15. Now, let's first start talking about the advantages that Almighty Arnold Allen has here after I get a sip of water. All right. Arnold is 1 inch taller and is the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Allen has the overall and UFC experience advantages with 4 more professional fights, 15 more minutes of pro cage time, in 2.5 more years as a pro. Arnold also has 4 more fights at the UFC level and over 40 more minutes of octagon time compared to Movsar. And Arnold is the better finisher, but that's not saying much because Evloev only has a 42% finish rate in 17 professional wins. He's got 4 submissions and 3 knockouts, but he's got a 0% finish rate in his 7 UFC wins, while Allen has a 58% career finish rate in 19 pro wins. He's got 4 submissions and 7 knockouts, and he's finished 4 of his 10 UFC wins, 2 by submission and 2 by knockout. Now, I rate Allen's striking a little better than Movsar's, but both guys are very capable at distance striking range. Arnold has a positive 0.73 distance striking differential. He's got 39.6% accuracy and 64% defense, which is good. He's flashed some power, landing 3 UFC knockdowns, landing them on 0.68% of the distance strikes he's landed, and his defense is above average at 69.84%. Arnold stays long, explodes in and out of range, and he's got great footwork, whether he's moving laterally and staying behind his jab when he's avoiding pressure or marching forward and trying to land his power shots. Arnold has a boxing background, and his fights stay at distance striking range about 70% of his UFC cage time. Movsar is a tricky opponent because not only is he a capable boxer, but you also have to account for the takedown attempts are coming. But Allen does seem to be the more dangerous and explosive boxer while this fight is at range, as Movsar has never knocked anyone down or out at the UFC level. And Arnold has fought a ton of wrestlers at the UFC level, and he's shown solid grappling efficiency in those fights because he displays above average takedown accuracy at 50% and above average takedown defense at 76.5%. Even though Allen has attempted only 22 takedowns and his opponents have attempted 51 against him, Arnold still manages to win almost 49% of the control time positions in his fights, despite only attempting 30% of the total takedowns. So the takedown defense holds up, and he has a solid get-up game, and he's going to need both against Evloev, who is an elite wrestler. And even though the metrics show their strength of schedule is similar, when you compare Allen's last 5 opponents, Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar, Dan Hooker, Sadiq Youssef, and Nick Lentz, to the last 5 opponents for Evloev, which is Diego Lopez, Dan Ige, Hakeem Dawodu, Nick Lentz as well. They both fought Nick Lentz, and Mike Grundy. It's clear which one of these guys has fought the tougher strength of schedule lately, and that's Arnold Allen. Now, Movsar has got a 2-inch reach advantage over Allen. I was kind of surprised by that. I picture Allen being the taller, longer guy, but it's Movsar who has the reach advantage here. And Movsar is a phenomenal minute winner. He only has a 42% finish rate as a pro, and he didn't finish any of his 7 UFC wins, but that doesn't matter because Movsar is a master of winning minutes, banking rounds, and winning decisions. He's 10 wins and 0 losses to the decision in his pro career, and when fights are on the feet, Movsar stays busy. He has an active jab, and he's accurate and defensively responsible at the same time. 47% of Movsar's octagon time takes place in control time positions, and he wins over 88% of those positions. Wherever the fight goes, Movsar wins minutes, and he avoids losing moments, as he's never been dropped in the UFC. And even though he's been put in some deep submissions, he always stays calm and finds his way back to safety. Movsar's distance striking metrics are impressive. Once again, he isn't sparking dudes, but he has a positive 1.87 distance striking differential with 42% accuracy and 65.5% defense. He attempts more strikes than his opponents do, and he avoids absorbing the big shot as he's never been dropped. Movsar pressures on the feet, he stays busy behind a great jab, and he does a good job putting his combinations together while keeping his opponent on the back foot, always looking to set up his wrestling entries off of his striking. Movsar isn't spectacular at distance, but he's very capable there, and he fights a perfect style that suits his strengths as a fighter. Excellent minute-winning skills at distance, and the numbers really do bear that out for him. But where Movsar does his best work is in the grappling exchanges. Movsar lands 4.71 takedowns per 15 minutes on 9.29 attempts. His takedown accuracy is way above average at 51%, and his defense is also solid at 71%. Movsar dominates the control time positions 41.4% to 5.5%, winning over 88% of those positions, which make up almost 47% of Movsar's octagon time. Allen has been taken down and controlled by several UFC opponents, including Mads Burnell, Makwan Amirkhani, and Alan Omer, but those fights were over 5 years ago. So who knows how much better Allen's takedown defense has gotten since then. The opportunity to mix in the wrestling and win minutes with it should be available to Movsar with this matchup, and I expect him to make Allen wrestle so he isn't doing what he's most comfortable doing, which is staying at distance striking range. What a high-level fight this is. Definitely considered by most to be a striker versus grappler matchup, but both of these guys are well-rounded and well-tested fighters, so it's not as simple as striker versus grappler. Movsar can win minutes anywhere, and Allen is such a dangerous striker that he can lose minutes while finding moments and using those moments to bank rounds against fighters that don't do real damage. And Movsar Evloev kind of fits that category. This is a close fight. Movsar won't be able to just take Allen down and keep him there for 10 of 15 minutes, I don't think. Arnold's takedown defense is getting better, and his urgency to get back to his feet when he was taken down has always been there. That being said, Movsar's striking is pretty damn good in his own right, and he should be able to keep this fight close enough on the feet in order to make the successful takedown attempts he is able to mix in, be able to help him bank the rounds of this fight. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished as a pro, and this should be a close fight. So I see this fight going the full 15. The over 2.5 rounds this week is a solid parlay piece, and that is the second piece of my Stop the Violence parlay, which is the over 2.5 rounds in this fight, parlayed with the over 2.5 rounds that we already talked about in the Brad Katona fight at minus 172. That two-leg parlay, I think it's coming out to plus... Oh, I haven't tracked it yet. God damn it. Why didn't I track that? At plus 105 or something like that, I think is what that came out to. But either way, yeah, Evloev by decision is the pick, but I think Arnold Allen is going to make this really close. And we've seen Evloev lose rounds at the UFC level, and Arnold Allen is a guy who can lose a bunch of minutes, land one big shot, and win the round off that shot. So we're going to see. This is a fun fight, super high-level fight, but I am kind of going the way that a lot of other people are going this week and picking Evloev to win by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got John Hendricks in the room saying, dude, I don't know why I think DuPlessis might finish Strickland. I could tell you why you think that, John, because Dricus DuPlessis has finished 19 of his 20 professional wins, 95% career finish rate. This guy is absolutely an explosive finisher. His power and finish percentage is crazy. Yes. We got Sammy Malcolm in the room saying, oh, what is happening, Sammy? We've got the Cuban assassin saying, since the fights are in Canada, I might show up to the brewery with a mouse in a bottle of beer like the guys in Strange Brew. Canada, stand up. We got Sammy Malcolm saying, why do I feel this one not going the distance, although it should? I don't think it's going to finish inside the distance, but if it does, it's going to be Arnold Allen that finishes, in my opinion. Too much bad blood, says Hendricks. Somebody is getting finished. Yes, I do agree with that sentiment. Immaculaton saying, going with Allen here. He's not just going to fall over. And that fight with Max made him a man. I'll take plus 165. Yeah, you're getting plus money on a guy in Allen whose only UFC loss over a long career comes to Max Blessed Holloway. So very, very interesting. And like I said, it's not like you look at the recent fights, right? The recent fights for Arnold Allen. Max Holloway doesn't wrestle. Calvin Kattar doesn't wrestle. Dan Hooker doesn't wrestle. Sadiq Youssef doesn't wrestle. Nick Lentz does wrestle, though. But before the Nick Lentz fight, he's fighting Mats Burnell. He's fighting Alan Omer. He's fighting Makwan Amirkhani. So he's definitely fought guys. And even he fought Yadi Mesa. Yadi Mesa attempted 8 takedowns on him. He got none of them. So, yeah, Allen has fought plenty of wrestlers. But, God, you just look at this chunk of blue here. Here in the offensive grappling stats and in the takedown accuracy, volume, and attempts, and in the control time stats for Movsar Evloev. So he's going to need to excel there, I think, to beat Arnold Allen. And he always does seem to do exactly that, getting his takedowns at over a 50% clip. John Hendricks saying DuPlessis and Lilia will be champs this year. You like Lilia Jojua? Oh, that's Liana Jojua. Damn it, Lilia Shakarova. Yeah, I'm with you. Lilia Shakarova, Uzbekistan stand-up. She's got a haircut you could set your watch to, and she is the champion of the best haircut in the women's strawweight division. Burner saying got burned trying to fade Arnold versus Sadiq. Yeah, Arnold lost the minutes in that fight, but he landed the impactful shots that changed rounds. Allen round 3 KO, says Burner. Just let it be after the 2.5-minute mark, please, Burner. A Caddy Daddy in the room saying, oi! We've got Moy's audio saying draw is live. That would be interesting. Very interesting. Tater Tots and Fanta saying, is it normal for blood to come out your eyes, nose, ears, and mouth when trying to pass a massive turd? If you're me, it is. That happens every day to me. But you know what you do, Tater Tots and Fanta? You fucking push through it like a man does. Cole Stein saying, great stuff, Unc. What's up, Cole? Good to see you hanging out in here. And we got Bo Jackson saying, I'm going to UFC 297 on Saturday and heading to the Bills game on Sunday. Got a jam-packed weekend. That is going to be a fun weekend. I hope you make money on both events, Bo Jackson. Let's go. Let's move on to this next fight, which is going to be, I believe it's a Chris Curtis fight. Yes, sir. Chris the Action Man Curtis going up against Marc-Andre Barriault. We got Curtis as a pretty big favorite here at -192, going up against the home country fighter here in Marc-Andre Barriault at +167. The fight doesn't go to decision here. Just a little bit of juice on it at -105. So let's first start talking about Chris the Action Man Curtis and the advantages that he has over Barriault. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over Marc. Chris has the overall experience advantage over Marc with 18 more fights, 280 more minutes of cage time, and 5 more years as a professional fighter. Chris Curtis is extremely durable. The guy fights up a weight class, and he's only been finished twice in 41 professional fights. The Action Man always comes to fight, and getting him out of there is nearly impossible. So minute winning is the way to beat Chris Curtis. Now, Chris is a very talented boxer. He loves to get into the pocket, slip his opponent's punches, and rip to the body and head in return. He loves being in that firefight, standing on a napkin in the center of the cage, trading bombs. Chris is patient and unyielding in his quest to find the counter that ends the fight. He definitely is more of a minute loser at distance, but he does tend to start slow while he uses his feints to draw out his opponent's attacks, and he downloads that information trying to find the best way to find that big shot that changes the trajectory of this fight. Chris's 17 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in his pro career. So you could see why he's so patient. And he's willing to lose minutes while downloading the information that will open up the big shot that changes the fight. 89.5% of Chris's fights take place at distance striking range in the UFC. And Chris is 92% takedown defense. So he's very good at keeping fights where he's most comfortable, which is at distance striking range. Chris has 4 less UFC fights than Marc, but it's Chris who has fought the more experienced guys with the better records at the UFC level. Chris's overall strength of schedule and the strength of his wins are far better than Marc-Andre Barriault's. Now, Barriault is 2.5 years younger, and he's 3 inches taller than Chris Curtis. And Marc has the UFC experience advantage. He's got 4 more fights at the UFC level and 50 more minutes of octagon time. Marc has a very aggressive, high-volume, pressure style that suits his strengths well. Marc is durable. He's got excellent conditioning, and he uses that conditioning and output as a weapon. Marc lands 5.8 distance strikes per minute, 1.6 more than the divisional average, and he attempts 14.62 per minute, which is 4.39 more than the divisional average. He's got a positive 0.1 distance striking differential with 40% accuracy and 60% defense. This fight should absolutely be a distance striking match, and I rate Marc's minute winning ability just a little better than Chris's due to the pressure, the output, and the durability that he brings. So Chris Curtis has never attempted a takedown in the UFC, and Marc-Andre Barriault has gotten a grand total of 2 takedowns in 11 UFC fights. So it's pretty safe to say this fight takes place on the feet, at distance striking range, and probably some in the clinch as well. The minute winning favors Barriault in my opinion, but it's very, very close. That being said, I do favor Curtis's durability, his precision, his power, and his ability to find the big shot that could potentially end the fight. I don't see Curtis getting tired, and I don't think Barriault's wrestling is good enough to get Chris down. So I feel as if I have to favor Curtis in this spot due to the precision and likelihood that he lands the more impactful shots in this fight. Both guys are durable, so I'll pick Chris Curtis to win this fight by decision, but I also think a reasonably priced finish-only prop on Chris Curtis might be an excellent way to play this fight, but he is almost a minus 200 favorite, so the likelihood that that happens is probably pretty low. But yeah, the pick for this one is going to be Chris the Action Man Curtis to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got my guy Kadeem Mbaye in the room saying, "Oi!" We've got Immaculaton saying, "I love Chris Curtis. His Phil Hawes KO won me a lot, but he's an underdog bet, not a 2-1 bet. He'll fight one way and make no adjustments." That's very true. But the thing about that, Immaculaton, is that I think that this is a good stylistic matchup for him. Mark's not going to dance and make Chris try and find him. Mark's going to be right in front of him in his face the whole time. And I think that's going to give Chris the opportunity that he needs to find that big shot, to potentially even knock out Marc-Andre Barriault. But yeah, that's what Curtis does really well, is when his opponents are not making Chris chase them down, that's when he really does get what he needs from his opponent, downloading that information and finding the way to land that fight-ending shot. Vic saying, "I had Curtis on a 2-leg parlay, but the other leg fell off. So now I have a single bet on Curtis, 2.5 units, minus 135. I definitely got the best of the line. Now I need Curtis to get this W." Yeah, minus 135 is a phenomenal line. Minus 192, that's a bit of a reach, especially if Curtis doesn't find a knockout. Mark might be pressuring. Mark might be throwing more. Mark might be landing more. So, and Mark could also kind of clinch up with Chris, and he does really good work in the clinch. So maybe that's how Mark wins minutes here. Is he can win some with the pressure at distance, but I think he can win minutes in the clinch if he can keep Chris there. So that would be an interesting wrinkle on this fight. And yeah, the body work from Chris Curtis. I mean, he always goes to the body. Such a great way because he's got great conditioning. So he stays strong as the fight goes on, but the way he lands those body shots really takes a lot out of his opponents, makes it hard for them to have big late moments in fights. And Michael Panza saying, "I think Curtis can get the finish. He's been in there with some killers at 185. Can't say the same about Azaitar or Barriault." I was just going to say, how dare you? He fought Abu Azaitar. He fought Jordan Wright. No, I get you, Michael. It makes perfect sense. A big strength of schedule advantage here for Chris the Action Man Curtis. All right, you guys. Next fight that we're going to talk about, Neil the Haitian sensation Magny at plus 300 going up against proper Mike Mallott minus 400. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up here at minus 250 here. Let's get the stats up on the screen. And let's first start talking about the advantages that Neil Magny has in this spot. Neil's 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage over Mike. And Neil obviously has the overall and UFC experience advantages. He's got 27 more professional fights, 435 more minutes of pro cage time, and almost 1 more year as a professional. So not only is he more experienced, but he's way more active. Mallott fights less than once a year, and Neil fights 3 times a year on average. Neil also has 28 more fights at the UFC level and over 375 more minutes of octagon time. This is one of the biggest experience advantages and differentials I've ever seen in a UFC fight. Neil has always been a well-rounded, well-tested, and conditioned mixed martial artist. He can definitely push a pace for the full 15 minutes. And if you aren't comfortable fighting for extended stretches, Neal can wear you out and really turn up the output as the fight goes on. Neal has 14 wins and 3 losses to the decision in the UFC, so it's clear that he can find multiple ways to win minutes. Mallott only has 40 minutes of pro cage time, so if this fight does get out of the first, there's no telling how Mike will respond against an experienced opponent with top-notch conditioning like Neil Magny. Neal has good distance striking metrics. His 80-inch reach is really long for the division, and he throws straight punches while staying behind his jab in order to maintain distance. Neal has a positive 0.6 distance striking differential with a positive 3.34 distance strike attempt differential. He stays busy, he pushes a pace, and he stays long. He's only landed 2 knockdowns in 31 UFC fights, so Neal does it with volume rather than with power. Definitely more of a minute winner than a moment winner at distance. And Neal has fought the much better level of competition over his career, and it isn't even close. The combined UFC records of Neal's 31 UFC opponents is 238 wins and 168 losses, while Mallott's career opponents in the UFC, their records sum up to 8 wins and 9 losses. This is a massive step up in competition for proper Mike Mallott. Now, Mike is over 4 years younger than Neil Magny, and as talented as Neil Magny is at winning minutes, Mallott is even more talented at winning moments. Mike has finished all 10 of his pro wins inside the distance. He's got 6 submission wins and 4 knockouts, and 9 of those 10 finishes come in the very first round. The other came against Adam Fugit 1 minute and 6 seconds into the second round. Mike is explosive as fuck. Whether it's on the feet with his powerful striking, where he has power in both hands and powerful kicks to the body and head, or on the mat with his incredibly opportunistic submission game. This dude fights like he has dinner reservations that he refuses to be late for. It doesn't really matter where the fight is. This kid can end your night so fast. He absolutely starched the living shit out of Mickey Gall with a perfect left hook, and he dropped Fugit with a right hook, left hook combo and immediately jumped on the Gilly to finish that fight. Mike also has the capability to take you down, advance to a dominant position, and finish with arm triangles and rear naked chokes. Mike is the definition of an explosive finisher, which is why he's such a fun fighter to watch. Now, Mike has incredibly clean and powerful striking. He was the striking coach at Team Alpha Male. We only have 10 minutes of distance striking stats in the UFC for Mallott, but the numbers are eye-popping. He's got a positive 2.57 distance striking differential with way above average 51.6% accuracy and 64% defense. Mike shows explosive power in both hands, and his kicks to the body and head are thrown with power and purpose. Mike lands a knockdown on 4.08% of the distance strikes that he lands, which isn't surprising when you see how much power he puts into his strikes. If there is a criticism for Mike, it's that he's kind of low volume and that throwing 100% power into every strike that you throw isn't sustainable in fights that go over 6 or 7 minutes. But it's really hard to nitpick Mallott. He's looked incredible thus far at distance in the UFC. And just like his striking stats, Mike's grappling stats are also eye-popping in a small sample size. He's 100% on his 3 takedown attempts, averaging 3.21 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's also aggressive on the mat, attempting 2.14 submissions per 15 minutes, and he's finished every submission attempt he had at the UFC level while also averaging 1.07 reverses per 15 minutes. The efficiency is also there as Mike outcontrols his opponents 22.2% to 2.85%, winning over 88% of the control time possessions that his fights are in. You don't want to be on the mat against this kid. He's so explosive when he attempts submissions, and if he gets your neck, it's over. So this is a very interesting matchup. Mallott's a minus 400 favorite here. But Neil Magny is by far the toughest fight of Mallott's career. On the Mallott side now, you've got a dangerous moment winner. He's got a 100% finish rate. All 10 of those finishes come in under 6.5 minutes. His striking is clean and powerful, and everything he throws is meant to knock you out. His submission game is opportunistic and deadly. Whether, excuse me, opportunistic, where the fuck did I leave off? His submission game is opportunistic and deadly, whether he takes you down and goes from step 1 to step 2 to step finish, or whether he lands a big shot and then latches onto his trademark power gilly. This kid is as deadly as it gets. But on the other side, you have Neil Magny, who's 2 inches taller. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's had calendar years in the UFC where he logged more octagon time than Mallott has in his entire 12-plus year pro career. Neil Magny has 31 UFC fights since 2013. And while Mallott is explosive and front-loaded, Magny gets better as the fight goes on, and he uses his conditioning and output to wear down his opponents as the fight goes on. These two fighters couldn't be more different, which is what makes this fight so fascinating. It's impossible to ignore Mallott's power on the feet and his deadly submission game, which is why my official pick is Mike Mallott to win this fight by submission in round 1. But I wouldn't be doing my job as a capper if I didn't take into consideration what happens if this fight goes past the 7.5 minute mark. Mike has never won a fight that went past the 7-minute mark in his entire career, and he doesn't really have a minute winning and round banking skill set. The fact that he's so explosive means that he will slow down as the fight goes on. And if that happens, the Neil Magny 3rd round prop could be an extremely cheeky way to play this fight with massive upside. In my opinion, the best way to play Mallott is with a 1st round prop or him to finish in rounds 1 or 2. Because if this fight gets to the 3rd, I doubt Mike Mallott will have anything left in the tank. So yeah, the official prediction, obviously, it's going to be proper Mike Mallott to win this fight by 1st round submission. But I think I'm going to get on a Neil Magny round 3 prop of some variety, whether it's just round 3, maybe at plus 4,000, put 1/10 of a unit on it, a tiny little bet. Because what happens if Neil fights really smart? And let's say, here's what I would tell him to do, right? Don't go to the ground with this kid, and don't box with this kid. Stay all the way out, and then when Mike explodes forward, you try to find a way to get this guy into the clinch. And if you can get him into the clinch and wear on him for as long as possible, maybe you can drain his gas tank far enough, take enough sting out of his punches that you can wear on him as the fight goes on. But in that 1st round, you just don't want to engage with this kid at all. He can knock you out with a punch. He can knock you out with a kick. He can drop you with a body shot. He can snatch up a gilly if you make even one mistake. He can take you down and take your back. This guy is just such a fantastic finisher. But like I say, there is a chance that this fight gets past the 7.5 minute mark. And if that happens, I'm telling you, the way that Mike Mallott fights, it's just not sustainable for 15 minutes. So it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I'll be betting Mike Mallott round 1. Or maybe a round 1, round 2 combo. I think that is absolutely almost all of his win condition. So I'll see what kind of prices I can get on that. And if I get the right price, it'll be a decently sized bet. But I think I'm going to throw a 1/10 of a unit at something like plus 3,500 or so for Magny round 3. That'll be a cheeky little play there. All right. Wow, we got a lot of comments here. Let me see here. Michael Martinez saying the UFC is setting up Magny for an L. I got Mallott by sub. We got Frank saying Magny is aging like fine vintage mayonnaise. He will likely get murked on Saturday. Real fight picks. I am going to beat Mallott like one of my kids. Neil Magny. Power Structure saying money pouring in on Mallott, and yes, it is. Burner saying facts. Real Fight Pick saying in all seriousness, I hope that that baby mama drama doesn't affect Neil in a negative way. Tater Tots and Fanta saying, I'd rather listen to this than Lucas Tracy. I don't know who Lucas Tracy is. I have no idea who that is. Michael Panza saying, this is a showcase spot for Mallott. It absolutely is. And Magny has a number next to his name. So this is a great opportunity for him to jump into that top 15 in front of the friendly crowd in Canada and get a finish over a top 15 guy, which will get Mallott way up that ladder and get him a lot more compelling fights going forward. Sammy Malcolm saying, last Canadian card, a lot of Canadian underdogs came through. Barriault decision is not bad. Yeah, because Barriault is not finishing Chris Curtis. Nobody's finishing Chris Curtis. Easy Bet saying Magny at plus 300 is just crazy to me. This is the classic Magny spot. Golden Octagon saying, oi, yes, can't wait for this weekend. I got my bag of oranges ready. The bookies better get ready for this beating. Thanks, Weezy. Appreciate you, Golden Octagon. Always love it when you hang out here with us. Sammy Malcolm saying, good call. Round 1-2 Mallott play. That's what I'm going to go with, I think. Mallott going to get tired and rear naked choke. Neil round 3. Yeah, dude, I mean, a Neil Magny's round 3 submission prop, that's probably how I play it. Does Mallott have a submission loss? I don't think he's ever lost. Oh, he does have one loss. It was by knockout, and it was to Hakeem Dawodu on the regional scene. All right. We got Neil wins rear naked choke round 3. We got Victor saying, I got Mallott at minus 290 and Jourdain at minus 186 on a parlay, 2.5 units plus 107 to win 2.66 units. That's my little Canadian parlay. Curtis being my only other bet so far. Yeah, dude, I love Mallott in this spot. And I do think that I haven't taped the Jourdain fight yet, though. That was the one I couldn't get written up and taped by Showtime. But I definitely endorse the Mallott play. And I think that there's a ton of advantages on paper for Jourdain on this fight, in addition to him fighting at home in front of the Canadian crowd. Sammy Malcolm saying, if yes, then sub 3 maybe. If no, then decision Magny. Yeah, that could be. Or even a draw. We haven't had a draw in a while. This card might have one. It might. Round 1, 10-8, then Magny 2 and 3. That could be a draw. Yeah. I will probably have a little hedge on Magny round 3 as well. Makes sense. Yeah, 1/10 of a unit. I mean, because you just don't want to be holding a Mallott ticket if this thing goes into round 3, because he might not be able to get off the stool. We got Bo Jackson saying he knows Dick Tracy. We got Curtis Clark saying Lucas Tracy is a trendy MMA YouTuber. I don't know much about him other than that. I've never heard of Lucas Tracy, and if he's a trendy MMA YouTuber, I think I should have heard of him. But yeah, thanks for filling me in on that, because I didn't know that. And Curtis Clark wants to know what's popping. The popping is going to be the jab, man. It's going to be the jab of Sean Strickland in the face of Dricus DuPlessis. Let's see how he handles it. I can't wait to break down with that fight with you guys. But we got one title fight before that, and it is going to be Rocky Pennington, the underdog at plus 137, going up against Mayra Bueno Chitara Silva at minus 157. Fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at minus 125 for this fight. So let's get these stats up on the screen and first start talking about Raquel Pennington and the advantages that she has in this matchup. She's 1 inch taller, and she's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage over MBS. Rocky has the overall and UFC experience advantages. She has 9 more professional fights, 185 more minutes of pro cage time, and 3 more years as a pro fighter. Rocky also has 8 more fights at the UFC level and 155 more minutes of octagon time. Rocky is a KG veteran, an OG of the sport. She made her UFC debut back in 2013 versus Roxanne Modafferi after being on the first female season of The Ultimate Fighter, and she's been fighting at a high level ever since. Raquel is 12-5 in the UFC, and she's fought for the title. Rocky's 9 wins and 4 losses to the decision in her UFC career, while MBS is 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 draw to the decision. So Rocky has demonstrated over the years the ability to win minutes, bank rounds, and win judges' decisions. Rocky's boxing is above average. She's really good in the clinch. She spends a lot of time there, and she knows how to win minutes in that clinch position. And she has a solid grappling efficiency, along with 3 UFC wins by way of submission. Rocky isn't spectacular anywhere. However, she's always been durable, game, and a really tough out. Rocky has solid boxing. She's got a positive 0.35 distance striking differential, 41% accuracy, and 69% distance defense, which is elite for the division. She's low volume and attempts 2.5 less distance strikes per minute than her opponents do, but that defensive responsibility combined with her accuracy when she throws allows her to always be competitive in the distance striking exchanges. And Rocky has always been a menace in the clinch. She spends 47% of her UFC octagon time in control time positions. And while she's there, she's got a positive 1.04 clinch and ground strike landed per minute differential, landing 3.31 clinch and ground strikes per minute, attempting 4.08 with 81% accuracy. All 3 of those metrics that you see right here, here, and here are all above average for the division. And Rocky's UFC strength of schedule is better than Mayra Bueno Silva's. The combined record of Rocky's opponents is 127 wins and 92 losses with a 1.38 ratio, while for Silva, it's 44 wins and 43 losses, a 1.02 ratio. In particular, Rocky's wins rate better than Mayra's, so I'd say Rocky has a significant strength of schedule advantage in this matchup. Now, Mayra Bueno Silva is 3 years younger than Raquel. She's the far more opportunistic finisher. She's got an 80% finish rate as a pro and in the UFC, 7 total wins by submission, and 1 by knockout. Mayra finished 4 of her 5 UFC wins, all by submission, while Rocky only has a 25% finish rate in 12 UFC wins, also all by submission. So Mayra is the far more likely lady to finish this fight. And on the feet, Mayra has a style that suits her strengths. She's a pressure fighter who throws with power and purpose, throwing heavy kicks and power combos with her hands and elbows. Mayra doesn't care if you take her down. Her BJJ is elite for the division, and her guard is absolutely terrifying. Mayra is 7 wins and 0 losses to the submission in her career, and 4 of her 5 UFC wins come by way of submission. In the past, Mayra used her pressure and constant output of power strikes to back her opponents up, try to hurt them, which frustrated them and usually caused them to initiate the wrestling, giving Mayra exactly what she wants, the opportunity to submit her opponent from her guard. All 4 of her official UFC submissions were guard submissions, 3 arm bars and a knee bar. She also caught a beautiful ninja choke on Dana White's Contender Series versus Miana Sosa, and her most recent win over Holly Holm came by way of that same ninja choke. Mayra is so fucking dangerous when she attempts submissions, and Rocky has historically spent about half her octagon time in control time positions. So the opportunities for Mayra to lock up yet another submission should be there for her in this matchup. An interesting strength of schedule note, too. Mayra just submitted Holly Holm in the second round, while Raquel has lost to her twice. It's MMA math, but it's compelling for people on the MBS side to consider how easy Silva made it look against Holly Holm, while Holly Holm beat Raquel Pennington twice, and I think even finished her in the 5th round one time. So this is a great matchup. MBS looks unstoppable right now. She made it look easy against Holly Holm, who's been at the top of the division for almost 10 years. That fight was overturned to a no contest because Mayra tested positive for her prescription ADHD medication, Adderall. So it was a legit win that got overturned to what comes down to a technicality. In this matchup, she's getting another OG of the division in Raquel Pennington, who is tough as nails and has fought at a higher level for a longer time against tougher competition. She has solid conditioning, durability, boxing, clinch game, takedown defense, and ground and pound. She's strong everywhere and could have an advantage in the championship rounds of this fight. I do favor MBS quite a bit here. She's so aggressive wherever the fight goes, and I think she can land the bigger shots at distance while also being the far more dangerous fighter on the ground. She's younger, more powerful. Her submission game is elite, and she hasn't lost since the Mananfero fight, and that was an entirely different stylistic matchup. I think Myra cruises here. Lock it up submission in the second round. She deserves that belt, and I think she's going to be wearing gold on Saturday night, you guys. I am picking Mayra Bueno Silva and New to win this fight by submission in round number 2. What's going on with you guys in the chat? What do you guys got to say about that, huh? We got, no way you got DDP. I mean, Strickland. I think DDP is the side. Yeah, dude, that's kind of how I am with that fight, man. I am not confident in my Strickland or DuPlessis pick, but we're going to talk about that fight. We got Immaculatan saying Chitara too dangerous for Rocky to hold against the cage. MBS got this one. I don't see any reason to face Raquel. Been betting on her and she pulls through, or to fade Raquel. Been betting on her and she pulls through. Buena Silva hasn't impressed me. Curtis Clark says MBS by sub most def. We got Frank Vitale in the room saying if Rocky hasn't lost that spare tire around her gut, bet the house on Silva after the weigh-in. If Rocky's in shape, though, she's sneaky live. Yeah, 5-round fight. She better be in shape. Remdog saying bantamweight MBS at ATT is a different beast. New dad fade against Raquel. Can't eat, sleep, train, right with that baby keeping you up at night. I've heard that could be a problem for some recent parents. Sammy Malcolm saying, I don't see why fade Raquel. Raquel's a good boxer. She will TKO win or decision, yes, that too. But spray TKO. I like the boxing of Raquel. She has hands, says Sammy Malcolm. How many subs losses for Raquel? Very rare. There is a first-time sub or a first-time KO. Yeah, she's been submitted once in her career and knocked out once in her career, but her only UFC loss came by way of knockout. And I think that one came, was it Holly Holm in round 5? Let me look. She lost by Holly Holm in a 3-round decision. And it was Nunez who knocked her out in round 5. And then, 2 3-round decisions she lost to Holly Holm. She got outstruck in both of them. Or no, Holm outstruck Pennington 44-40. And in this one, Pennington outstruck Holm 38-30 and got a takedown. But it was Holm who got the unanimous decision. So close fights against Holly Holm. Cuban Assassin saying, I think Pennington loses and retires to be a mom and calls it a career. And it's a great career it's been. I mean, Rocky doesn't need to hang around forever. I like Katona and Mallott in the Canadian parlay, says Michael Martinez. I think they both win. Bo Jackson saying DuPlessis wins. Izzy gets his belt back. We've got Kadima Mbaye say, give me MBS. I'm afraid she's going to get her first TKO win. I watched her train and her striking looks way sharper. Plus, Raquel's never been subbed before, but lost by ground and pound against Nunez. Yes. Sammy Malcolm saying, Buena is good for the company and marketing. Steal a decision for Buena. Haha, split decision, one of those. Kadim Mbaye saying, I could see Raquel defending subs and getting stuck in a ground and pound position. It could happen. Fight Talk Only saying, Oi, hola, tío, ¿cómo estás? Hope all is well. Let's stack them, baby. All is well, man. Let's get it going here for UFC 297. We got Sammy saying, has Raquel faced other good submissioners? No, not really. Vieira, no. Lad, no. Chason, no. Kianzad, no. Renault, no. Holm, no. Aldana, no. Durandamy, pure striker. Amanda Nunez can knock out or submit anybody. Tate, no. Phillips, no. Correa, no. Jessica Andrade has some submissions. Holmes, a striker. Wrestler. Andrade. Modafferi is a good submission artist, but she's not a good fighter. So, yeah, she's never fought anybody that has literally an 80% finish rate by submission in her UFC career. We got Anthony W. in the room saying, Honey shows how ridiculous WMMA is. Ronda age fighter still getting a shot still. Yeah, I know, man. This division is not good. And MBS isn't even that talented. I think she's going to look talented on Saturday in comparison to Raquel. And Fight Talk saying, Unc, I'm late, so I don't know if you tackled this already, but do you think MBS is too emotional going to watch into this fight? She cried watching the promos. She's Brazilian, my man. These people cry when a steak is cooked just right. These people cry when they see a beautiful ass. They're emotional, passionate people, great people. But yeah, the Brazilians will cry at the drop of a hat. And I think emotion is not something I'm taking into consideration here. Sammy Malcolm saying it's going to be a good fight. Yes, it is. Plus, this is her first fight in front of a crowd since 2018. Any worries? No, man. No, I don't worry about that kind of stuff. I try not to worry about the narrative stuff as much as what I see in the stats and what I see on tape. Bueno Silva by decision, says Michael Panza. All right, you guys, 65 of you in here live. One more fight to break down. It is the main event of the evening. Sean Strickland at minus 139 going up against Dricus. Still knocks DuPlessis at plus 119. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Minus 325 on Bet Online Sportsbook. So let's get these stats up here and let's break down a phenomenal main event. This is going to be a great press conference. It's going to be a great lead up. There's going to be some great shit talking, and it's going to be a great fight, you guys. Sean Strickland has the overall and UFC experience advantages with 11 more pro fights, 210 more minutes of pro cage time, and 5 more years as a professional. Sean also has 14 more UFC fights and 240 more minutes of octagon time. Sean is going to be the minute winner in this fight. Dricus is explosive. He has a 95% career finish rate in 20 pro wins, while for Sean, it's only a 54% career finish rate in 28 pro wins. 4 submissions and 11 knockouts for Sean. Now, what Sean has experience doing that Dricus doesn't is going 5 rounds 6 different times in the UFC, while Dricus has never been scheduled to go 5 here in the UFC. Now, Dricus had several regional scene fights that were scheduled for 5 rounds, but none of them ever entered the championship rounds. Now, Sean is 10 wins and 3 losses to the decision in his pro career. So I think Sean's experience, his conditioning, his pressure, and high volume in your face boxing style are going to wear on Dricus. And if this fight does get to the championship rounds, I could easily see Sean's pressure breaking Dricus. And Sean has excellent boxing. He's a pressure fighter. He stays behind a very active jab. He keeps a high defensive shell. He flashes power when he puts his combinations together. And his ability to keep his opponents on the back foot because of how he trusts his defense is very impressive. Sean has got a positive 1.58 distance striking differential, 40% accuracy, and way above average 64.5% distance striking defense. Sean stays very busy, landing 6.22 distance strikes per minute, and he attempts 15.41, both way above average for the division. Jourdain is a difficult stylistic matchup because of the constant pressure, the activity, the annoying jab constantly in your face while he stays behind that shell, moving his head and countering his opponent's attacks. Dricus relies on blasting forward, throwing power shots in combination, and that doesn't lend itself to being able to keep that pace for 25 minutes. Combine that with how exhausting Sean's style is, and I see Sean definitely starting to take this fight over the longer it goes. And Dricus DuPlessis is 3 years younger, and he's a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox, which is an advantage on paper. And Dricus is without question the more explosive finisher. He has a 95% finish rate in 20 pro wins. He's got 10 submissions and 9 knockouts, and he's finished 5 of his 6 UFC wins. On the feet, Dricus has explosive power in all of his attacks, and he has a very opportunistic submission game as well. Wherever this fight goes, Dricus will be dangerous and looking to finish. And Dricus has really good distance striking metrics at the UFC level. He's got a positive 2.19 distance striking differential, way above average 50.77% accuracy, and below average 56% defense. The power numbers are definitely there, landing a knockdown on 1.52% of the distance strikes he lands and finishing 4 of his 6 UFC wins by way of knockout. Dricus throws with power and purpose, always looks to put combinations together while bringing his feet with him, and his punches do come straight down the pipe. It's a very awkward, it's a very awkward and difficult style to deal with, and it definitely works for Dricus. And Dricus also has above average grappling metrics. His efficiency is just okay, but he gets 2.72 takedowns per 15 minutes on 5.44 attempts, both above average for the division, and he gets his attempts at 50%, which is way above average. He wins 66% of the control time positions his fights are in, so Dricus is well-rounded. All right, so I love this main event, and I could see it going a few different ways. I think fight doesn't go to decision is a solid parlay piece this week. Dricus is an explosive finisher that probably doesn't have 5-round cardio, especially against a relentless, high-volume pressure striker like Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, is at a massive power disadvantage here, as Dricus is as big as a refrigerator, and he hits extremely hard and also keeps a very high pace. I'm way more confident that somebody gets served here than I am that Dricus or Sean wins this fight. If Dricus wins, I think he gets a finish in the first 3 rounds. I think Sean is live for a finish anytime because Dricus is not defensively responsible and leaves himself open for counters. I definitely think it's more likely in the championship rounds after the damage from Sean's jab is accumulated and his pressure has emptied the tank of Dricus. I'm going to pick Sean Strickland to outlast Dricus DuPlessis and win by 4th round knockout, but fight doesn't go to decision will definitely be a parlay piece for me this week, and I certainly think Dricus is live for an early KO here as well. What a main event, and what a UFC 297 card. So, Sean Strickland to win by knockout in round number 4 is the official picks. Let's save these predictions, and we have broken down all 12 fights on the UFC 297 card. Moy is saying Dricus DuPlessis, left hook, round 2, certainly a possibility the way that this dude hits. Frank Vituli saying DDP reminds me of Rocky Marciano back in the day. Bad technically, yet all he did was win with power and toughness. And you got that right, man. He's got both of those in spades. We got Fight Talk Only saying my mind is playing tug of war with these two. I honestly want to see DDP win, but Strickland round 4 or 5 decision is screaming at me. And I kind of feel the same way, but I kind of could see Sean getting a finish here early too. But man, this is going to be a hell of a fight because Sean does not shy away from action, and Dricus is constantly trying to cause action. So, I mean, this is going to be a car crash. I love this fight. We got Donkey G saying, thoughts on DuPlessis round 1 only, minus 150. I mean, I like it a lot, actually, Donkey G. I mean, I don't usually do those round 1 onlys or anything like that, but DuPlessis' power advantage and differential in this fight is massive. We did see Sean Strickland almost finish Israel Adesanya in round number 1. We got to keep that in mind. He was very close to finishing him. So we know that Sean's got power too. You know, Sean's got precision, and that power gets the opponent on the back foot. And, you know, when he sits down on his punches, they land heavy. So, I do like that bet though. I think that, you know, that's a safe bet. That's a good call, I'll admit, but I might want to hedge with that decision because you think Cannonier and Sean went to decision. DDP is similar to Cannonier. I think we could see 5 rounds. Yeah, but Cannonier's got phenomenal conditioning. Pan's saying, I think if it goes to the later rounds, it will favor Strickland. I agree, but DDP is definitely dangerous as fuck early. No question about it. All right, you guys, 2 more orders of business. I'm going to give you, well, actually 3. I'm going to give you the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week this week, a plus money pick that we think is going to cash. And I was on the Die Hard MMA podcast with my man Clint, yesterday on Pub Sports Radio. And Clint made his Link Memorial Dog of the Week, Sam Patterson here. And Sam Patterson around plus 125, plus 127. And we're both on that Sam Patterson side. And I was looking at the Patterson side, and I was also looking at Ramon Taveras at plus 150. You know, I mean, I think that that's very close to a 50-50 fight, but I see why the line favors City. There are some very good reasons. You know, he already beat Taveras, even though it was a controversial stoppage. He's taller, he's longer, he's younger, he's got more cage time. He's shown a better clinch game, and he's shown a better grappling game. So I shied away from the City pick, and I'm going to make the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week also the same as the Link Memorial Dog pick of the week, and it's going to be the Sam Patterson money line here at plus 128. I think we could potentially see more durability now that he's moved up in weight class. His conditioning is way better. He's taller. He's longer. He's younger. He's more well-rounded. Definitely better looking. But it is, Lainesse is definitely going to be live early, but I just think the technical strike, I think that this guy's better everywhere. Of course, you got to worry about him getting chin checked early, but that's fighting. You know, nothing's ever guaranteed here, but I think the recency bias on Sam Patterson is giving us a phenomenal price here. And I think that combined with the fact that I really do think Patterson is better everywhere, and I think his power is almost as good as Lainesse's. So, yeah, definitely love the Sam Patterson money line here at plus 128 as my dog pick of the week. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the last order of business that we're going to take care of here on Just a Tip with Uncle Weezy, and that is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who's going to go out there and win violently? Who's going to go out there and when they win that fight, you're going to be going, oh, shit, that was nasty. That was a great finish. That was an ass shaving. We're going to find out now. What are you guys saying in the chat here? We got DDP round one is plus 450 on Bet Online. Whatever book that is robbing you. Curtis Clark, he's talking about the round one only. So what that bet is he's getting minus 150. And if the fight goes out of the first round, that bet voids, but only becomes live if there's a finish in the first round. So if Sean Strickland finishes DuPlessis in the first round, he loses the bet. If DuPlessis finishes Strickland, he wins the bet. But if the fight goes to the second round, the bet becomes null and void and he gets his money back. So let's see here. We got Fight Talk Only saying, Unc, does DDP mention Sean's dad and he gets shanked on Thursday? He could be. I can't wait for the press conference here. These guys are going to be talking so much shit to each other. Sean will now have 10 minutes to figure out DDP's style. If he does, he will get a finish. If he doesn't, his ass will be shaved. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that's how it goes, Kadeem. Oi, let's go Bootsy, says Fight Talk Only. Plus 1,000 Strickland by knife. We got Sammy saying he might gas but not get finished. If you put championship round 4 finish and decision, then you only have to survive that heart attack until round 4. Prince of Mischief in the room saying, oi, we got add Pogo's memorial pick and put DDP for LOL. Rest in peace, baby boy Pogo. Rest in peace, Pogo. Rest in peace, Link. Rest in peace, Bootsy. Best dogs ever, man. We got Mallott saying Prince of Mischief for the ass shaving of the week. Who do you guys think the ass shaving of the week? We got Rendog saying MBS will shave ass and win Amanda's belt in the same place it was vacated. We got Jasudavicius for Matthew Chuck. We got Curtis Clark. Oh, never heard of that. Interesting. Jeff Bruno saying, what do you think about Jourdain inside the distance? Decision, no action. I love that bet. Jeff Bruno, I love that bet. It's not available yet on any books, but Jourdain is very, very durable. And you got to love betting on guys that are durable when you're getting those finish-only props because they just void if your guy doesn't get the finish. But if you can count on that durability, it's kind of like getting a free square where it'll cash if you get the finish, but you'll just get your money back because that guy is so durable. He's not likely to be finished. Yes, I did. Here, Gaethje versus Max for BMF UFC 300. That is a phenomenal fight. All right, you guys, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I'm going in a different direction than I normally do, ladies and gentlemen. This week, it is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva to shave the ass of Rocky Pennington. I think Rocky's too old. I don't think she's nearly dangerous enough anywhere that this fight goes to frustrate Mayra Bueno Silva. And I think it's just a matter of time before Mayra gets on an arm, a leg, a neck, a toe, a hair that's out of place, and then just rips off a submission to finish this fight. I think her pressure is a really key component of this fight. The pressure that Mayra brings always winds up getting her into those control time positions, those clinch positions, those ground positions where she really excels in finding those submissions. And she can get them standing with that ninja choke that she's finished with a couple times. She can get them from guard, and she can potentially even get them from top position as well. I don't usually pick women to carry the ass shaving of the week flag because they can be a little bit inconsistent. But my favorite pick that's not Mallott at minus 400. That's not, who else was I looking at that I think shaves ass? Like Jasmine Jasudavicius, yeah. But those are wide lines. So I want to give you something where you can make some money. And Mayra Bueno Silva is only minus 157 right now on Bet Online. So it's a very bettable and very parlayable line. I think she shaves ass. I think she gets the finish here. And that's where we're going to leave it. So I appreciate all you guys hanging out here. There are still 65 of you in here live. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below, and please consider, for the love of Jah, consider joining the Patreon where you get access to these advanced stats, to the prop template. Another thing that you get access to, which I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, are the show notes. This is what I read. This is my breakdown of every single fight, and I have a write-up on it. 25 total pages of notes, so that if you have a particular fight that you want to go dive deeper on, you have the statistics and the tape study notes in order to do it. And it's a great value. It's a great way to support my work, so please consider joining the Patreon. Tomorrow, you'll be able to find me on Pub Sports Radio at 8 o'clock Central Time, doing the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, Gordo Gambles, and my guy Monk Maddox. And then 10 o'clock Central Time, right here on Uncle Weezy channel, I'll be back to do Ask Weezy for this UFC 297 pay-per-view card. And after that, we'll do a Friday edition of Uncle Weezy's Greasy Four-Leg Parlay for UFC 297. You guys, let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 297. And God bless each and every one of you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Let's have some fun watching these fights and making money betting on them. Good night, everybody.